Hmm. Let me turn on the light. A light. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Lower intensity. There, how's that? Oh. Hmm. No. Hmm. Let's become quite dark. Yeah, it's weird. Should be something. Right. Did I join with video? Indulgence. See, see, it's this and oh, okay, there we go. I can see myself there now. I switch over to this. It's weird. Oh, no. So, welcome, friends, to wake up and think clearly. And thanks for indulging with me today. Indulge and indulgence, indulgence, indulge, to indulge. Let me read off what inspired me to indulge on indulgence. Let's see if there it is. Oh, today I want to end the meeting kind of early. Maybe I can go to the gym so I can be there by 9:45, 9:40. So I can try out a kickboxing class. Oh man, I'm gonna indulge on fitness. Ah, indulgence in resentment and vengeance will only further increase miseries to oneself and others in this life and in lives to come. What do you think? Mm, mm. Oh, so there's two words that we have, two additional words we need to consider. Ah, resentment and vengeance. So, so what is resentment and what is vengeance? Vengeance. Mm. And what about jealousy? Jealousy. Oh, it's, it's another word related to the jealousy. jealousy, envy. That be the other one. Envious, jealous. It's another word. I'm thinking. Uh, oh. Hmm. Let me read it again. Look, I see Dominic.
Good morning, Gerald.
Good morning, Dominic. Thanks for indulging with me in presenting your image,
Oh,
your,
thank you. Welcome.
your video. In Thanks for indulging with me.
I got to put my little love hat up there. Okay.
Look what it says here. Ah, I pulled this out from the bucket of wisdom quote. It says indulgence in resentment and vengeance will only further increase miseries to oneself and others in this life and in lives to come. In so, is it saying that we should be try to avoid indulging in resentment and vengeance? Hmm, hmm. Do you resort in resentment, uh, in vengeance, Hmm. or vengeance, resentment, or in vengeance? Hmm.
Well,
Are
there's,
you
go ahead, go.
trying to take revenge on someone? Hmm, hmm, hmm.
Well, Gerald, if you don't mind, maybe we can base on just what the definition, that one particular definition, opposed to what we should or shouldn't do. Maybe we can just break it down to, I think I've heard you resentment or jealousy. Have I myself personally practice some of those things in fleeting moments? Yes. Based on that definition, does it serve a purpose? Probably at the time, I thought it was serving a purpose. Does it harm other people? Probably. Like we could talk about, if you want, Jarl, how to avoid all that kind of stuff, but I think it would make more sense to at least establish some sort of foundation on how we're interpreting that definition.
Hmm.
Then you can break it down to why would people be resentful or jealous, if that was one of the words.
Hmm.
And even desire, you can be indulging on some things, too much of a good or bad thing.
Hmm.
I don't know if there's a clear-cut answer. If that's where we're going to, if you want to start quickly with there's an answer, hence, what can we do about, either avoiding it? I think some of it comes more natural in a moment. And even that, I'm guessing. Do I indulge in things? Yes, I do. If I'm going to talk about me for a second.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So indulging is not negative.
It can be. It
if
can
what
be, Joe.
if what one is indulging in mm, leads one to forget about other things, perhaps if one is resentful or vengeful, that could be caused by envy mm, or having had bad feelings towards someone else for what they did to us. Mm,
Again, Carol, if a person is not truly aware of the self,
mm,
they're really are going to pass, maybe not even stumble across kind of stuff like this. It's that
mm,
person that's finally, or not finally, um, just crisscrossing over or reevaluating their own existence. You know, a person that's jealous is not going to be aware that they're self-absorbed.
mm,
You know, they might have heard somebody else tell them that they're self-absorbed, or you know, some other terms that people use such as psychopath or sociopath. You know, you can't tell a person, actually you can tell a person what the word narcissist is, but most people aren't going to understand what a narcissist is. Give me a second, Charles.
mm,
This is an in and out venture with my cats. Um, you know, a person that looks at somebody that's a psychopath, not realizing it, they just generalize and say they're a narcissist. But a narcissist is a person that probably spends too much time with the me, whether working out a lot or um, making themselves look cosmetically pretty for their own surf, and only they would know whether or not I'm concerned about how other people perceive me, let alone I don't care how the people perceive me, but I still want to be the best person in the room, but yet not realizing they still are asking what other people perceive them. And then if they don't get that attention, they might use somebody else that is getting the attention as envy or jealousy. But again, they're not aware of the self. You know, people will think whoever they think they are is the self. So then in a roundabout way, they're going to indulge on things unaware. Now, when somebody really, for some people, if you really call them out, preferably privately, not publicly, because people publicly will have to put up airs. But a lot of times, some of them will actually say, "Oh, so you do know your behavior, you know what you're doing." And those are the people that once you realize that's how they are, you might be able to tell them by with a smirk or something that no, they're not. They don't see no reasons if there's such thing as the concept of repent and slash the word change. They're not going to change. If anything else, they're going to double down. So that's why we have indulgence. By you saying it's, you know, you just used a word negative, that already implies there's a corner. No, it's just negative. It's something unknown or the feminine side. Sometimes people can use it, but I know what you're trying to say. It's bad. I mean, you're trying to imply it's bad behavior. But for most of us, we're attached to what we perceive as good behavior, and we resist what's bad behavior. So if I can reduce some of those things that I don't like, therefore I would get more of the stuff I do like. It doesn't work that way. You have to put an effort no matter what you do and whatever end you think it is.
mm.
So we will indulge in ideals of saying this is good behavior or bad behavior. My likes and dislikes kind of ideal. And even that, most people never really examine what do I really like? And is it a moment in time I like eating soup? So oh, we got a cute little dog. I'm suspicious of who that dog belongs to or who the owner is.
Welcome, Don. Thank you, Don,
Hi, Don.
for indulging
An
us.
indulger.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Don.
Good morning, Don. How was your week?
Nice indulgence.
Oh, I can't hear you.
I went muted again. My week was crazy because, it's the season, tax season.
Oh, you're very busy.
Yes,
Oh,
Wow.
is she indulging in busyness?
I am.
There you go. There you go.
I am. I am. And you know what? It's funny because I've been thinking about whether it's a complaint or it's a if it's a happy thing. Because I'm so used to society looking at it as a negative. But how can I complain because I have abundance?
I think
So
you're allowed to complain if you want to. I used to have buddies that would say that. You say, "How you doing?" "Oh, I have nothing to complain about." I said, "No, but you could complain if you wanted to. I'll hear you out."
yes.
They just think it's a burden by saying those things. But you're saying something, Don, where sometimes it could be a couple things going on at the same time. You're busy working, in this case, taxes, but sometimes people weigh out the rewards for the reason why they do other things. But if you're in the moment, you might not necessarily get caught up in, am I really enjoying it or I'm not enjoying it? Sorry, I've gone on a little bit. So
Yeah, absolutely. Because I do enjoy my work and I'm happy to be, working and it's supporting my living. But I don't feel the need to complain about it like I used to, or like it feels like that's what when you ask people how they're doing, oh, I don't feel like I need to do that anymore.
well, in that moment, if you're in that moment, this is where we consider others. If you realize when you're by yourself, and this is where people say when they say, "Well, I have nothing to complain." Well, that's something you could do by yourself to a certain point. But when you're in the presence of others, the way you show respect to others is when you hear that, you stop everything you're doing and you ask them, "Can you at least explain, maybe if you can, what do you mean when you say, well, I don't like talking about it." "Well, then why did you say it then?" This is the subtle things that we do. And then we wonder why when we say, "Well, I want to be able to communicate with other people." Well, you don't even know how to do it with yourself.
Right.
It's
Well,
like, Charles.
welcome, Charles.
Hello, Jairo. Yes, nice. This is my first time to join this
Good
group
morning, child.
event. Yes, hello.
Oh,
Hey,
thank
Charles.
you for
Yeah.
joining us.
Mhm.
Mhm.
This
Oh,
is Jairo. I've seen you in
yes,
Plato's cave or in the
yes.
in Dan's sto Stoic Dan's
Stoic. Yes.
Orlando Buddhism meetup Sundays at
Hmm.
9 a.m. They'll have
Yes.
one tomorrow.
Okay. Actually, I'm right now in the Philippines. I'm in Manila. So,
Nice.
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, I because of I think the technology that the Zoom and our advanced technology from the internet that allows me to connect with people outside of my country. Yeah, that's the reason why I find like I do have interest in philosophy, Buddhism, and various topics in life. Yeah, so yeah, that's why I wanted to join and see what are the topics and what can I contribute for. Yeah.
What are the topics? I have here the
Mm.
topic in this sheet of paper. It says
Okay.
here, it's a quote. It it says indulgence in resentment and vengeance will only further increase miseries of oneself. No,
Mhm.
miseries to oneself and others in this life and in lives to come.
Mhm. So
So,
now, Jaro, and
Mm.
that's
I
indulgence.
thought we were going to talk about who's your daddy.
Well, that
That's
was last
right.
week. No, no.
We last week Don said, "Oh, maybe we should talk about who's your daddy, as in sugar daddy, or as in mm, who are you a slave of, or
The
Mhm,
question was about who, when you were saying the father, I
mhm.
forget who said that. Someone said, "Who is the father?"
Yep.
And I
oh, like
said,
as in our the prayer, the Lord's prayer, Our Father who art
Yep.
in heaven,
Mhm.
and the question was, who is that Father? And
yeah,
Other,
so, uh, oh, let's talk about that. Oh, let's say,
well,
who's your daddy? So
well,
your daddy, as in who's your father, as in who's your creator, God, or something like that.
it never said who the creator was, Jaro. Who your father, father of lies. So
Who's
now,
your
when
who's your
you,
mother,
okay,
or
Jaro,
who
Jaro, are we going to jump around here?
biologically
My buddy,
biologically
you're
father
already
or
doing it,
mother?
Jaro. You're going on your random spins, which is fine. But I'm trying to harness you a little bit here because I know you're going to do it with different topics. Maybe in your little world, you can keep up with that terminology, but there's more than one or two people here, Jaro. So in this particular case, let's stick to: are we going to acknowledge, as Don says, about daddy as father? Because if we are, because you already jumped from indulgence, and I could have gave you easily an explanation on my view on people that are resentful and all that kind of stuff. That's military stuff. If you're going to really indulge in military, you're actually going to be doing that. But if you want to go to the father now, let's go with that. Because if not, we're going to play this game again, and
We're
I'm good
going
at it.
we're going to fuse them together.
Maybe if you
In,
know that you confuse that within yourself and you're listening, and then you can explain it out loud so we can hear it, that's fine.
so it could be that our daddy is our indulgence, and our indulgence is what we think will give us pleasure, but it ends up giving us pain. What do you think about that?
You said it out loud, but are we trying to distinguish sugar daddy, or are we talking about father?
Mm, daddy as in master, and we being the son or the slave of the father. So, and so indulge with me for a minute and consider that what is our master is our indulgences, our attachments. What do you think about that?
Now you brought in another word, Jarrell. This is where a monk would probably hit you in the back of the head and say, "Get your own attention," because you're jumping around, Jarrell, which is fine. I get it. I get it, Jarrell. But if you've already established terminologies, because then I'll keep quiet, allow other people to go on. Because if you're here to think that you're the teacher, you're not.
Hmm.
I've told you before, you struggle even being teachable. So this is not to call you out on it, but harness whatever. See, I've always told you, I've shared this with other people, the listening's done from within. What you're going to do is we're going to hear each other. So if you're just going to blab for the sake of blabbing, I'm just using the word blab, chatting, which is fine. But that should be done with the self. So now, are we going to, because Dawn kind of clearly said it, she used the word daddy, but are we going to distinguish its father? Then we can break down what do we mean when we're using the word father.
Yes, Don.
I was going to say, so when that was brought up, our Father who art in heaven, I was thinking right away, I thought, oh, okay, well, that Father refers to the Creator, but really, everyone has their own perspective on it. So to one person, it might refer to the Creator, but I don't know what the intention was of the writer. And I can see from listening to what you said, Jairo, that it could refer to a master, what controls your thoughts, your life. So that's an interesting thought.
Now, I guess, Don, when you're saying that, in that phrase, did they ever say the word creator? See, this is where we lump in words, and everything else, it's our Father, maybe even heaven. Heaven could imply up high. So now we have a thing called the Pope. He implies that he's the Father. He's not a creator at all, at all. Now, there is things when they talk about in Genesis about things being formed, and then there's creations. So now to imply that something's a master, you have to say to yourself, do I acknowledge myself as a slave? Well, no. So why would it serve a purpose to acknowledge somebody else as a master? See, you got to play the game. You can't have a slave-master relationship if you don't acknowledge that you're a slave. This is why when people make that quick assumption, well, the color of my skin or my nation, I said, no, I don't imply it. Like the elites acknowledge peasants and citizens, and they're the people. But if I don't acknowledge myself as a citizen, then I'm actually indifferent to that whole equation. But yet I can't really go on yet and say, well, I don't agree with masters if I don't acknowledge I'm a slave. Now I'm just a person observing all of that. So once again, when you read whatever that was, our Father, fathers of lies, but who does all the and it's not even lies, they're misleading. We do it to ourselves. In that equation, I'm just asking a question. Did it ever say anything about creation?
Oh.
This is how we lump in words. You know, I get it. English is a meaningful language, and in a meaningful language, it's not even a good language to philosophize in. And even that, when people philosophize, they bring in all their likes and dislikes. So how can you philosophize with all the whys when you've already distinguished with judgment? That means your ego's there. So now Jaro is trying to lump it together like this first time I'm going to make a cake and I'm just going to put a whole bunch of recipes in there. I said, I'm not going to eat it. You better take a chance and eat it.
Oh.
And that's fine, Jaro. I get it. You like to play those games, but you're not really looking for a pattern and all that. You're just throwing things out there. Like if I was talking to a 5-year-old, okay, that's fine. You're allowed to play those games and all that. But if you're older, I would expect from one human being to another, where you're trying to go with that for yourself. For me, I could care less. I'm the observer of those things. It's like me, I don't vote, but I can play the game now. When people vote, you really can't play the game. You're too busy justifying why you voted or why you assume other people vote for somebody else. That's the observer now talking. So now in this particular case, who's the father? Are we talking a biological father? And even that, did they really create you? The only thing they did, they had desires, and they did the sperm and egg, which they didn't even create. So the human race really doesn't have that ability then. They can just reproduce. Take away desire, how would you even reproduce? See, the Pope in Italy thinks he's the father. Father of what? Is he the father? Because really, I look at the rest of humanity and I don't see us working as one. So what is he? Is he a father of strife? Might as well throw the Dalai Lama while you're in there too. He's another funny character. It's in the pudding, isn't it? It's in the taste of the pudding to confirm whether or not whatever their teachings, because anytime there's teachings, that's one time you can have discernment. I don't give a damn who said it. It's what did they teach? So then I can actually use wisdom and say, how does that serve, whether for me or for others? So once again, I'm going to step back a little bit here because we did use the word father. Giles already throw the word attachment, and he's already throwing in the word indulgence.
Well, so who's your daddy? Daddy refers to father, and father is a parent. Someone you look up to, someone you take refuge in, someone that will protect you. So in a way, he's your sugar daddy or sugar mommy. It could be who's your mother. It could be someone that you feel like is on your side.
Well, a sugar daddy, the way it's implied, the energy behind it is a provider.
Yes.
It's usually a narcissist that wants a sugar daddy, whether
Yes.
they know it or not. Look at me, I have something to offer. What do you offer? Well, I'm good looking. I said, no, you were born with those things. What do you offer?
Yeah.
So now in that particular case, now when you were talking about father, if you're talking about the earthly father, they're not solely there to protect you. They're there, they should be there to challenge you. I've told this to numerous of my buddies. I said, your parents failed you. You just don't know it yet. But when you do, you realize, did they challenge you? What do you mean? Were they prepared to be challenged? This is why when a lot of kids, when they're babies, when they reach 2 years old, they have a lot of whys. Those are philosophy inquiries. And the parent might not necessarily know how to answer those questions, but they should at least know, go inwards and direct to the person that could give them those kind of response. Dad, why is the clouds the way they are? Why do you know how to plant seeds? I don't know. Maybe I'll bring you to a wise woman or a wise man. Instead of sending them to some formal schooling system that which it does nothing more than dumb down the human race. Now, somebody could say, yeah, but going to university serves a purpose. Yes, for economic reasons. It doesn't serve a purpose to understand how energy works. It doesn't serve a purpose to understand how rivers and waters work. But anyway, I've deviated because, we're talking about something very narrow.
So why does it say our Father
Mm-hmm.
who art in heaven?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it our? Why is it not my Father? Who is the our? Our us. So it's referring, it's the Lord's Prayer. So it's suggesting that this is how we will pray.
Okay, so there you go.
Our Father who art in heaven.
Okay, it's the Lord's
So
Prayer.
that heaven suggests that there's an earth.
Okay, Jaro. Okay, you put it out there. Zip it for a minute. Lord. What does Lord mean? Ruler. So it's not creator. Who art in heaven. Now, because we're talking about heaven, we're not talking on a physical plane. Because most people we don't know what heaven really is. We don't even know what clouds are. So now we can speculate and say, well, Dominic, it could be where water and all that. Well, then then explain why clouds can come and disappear out of nowhere. See, science is a dogma. It's very limiting. So now in that case, when you're looking, this is how you do discernment. You got to break down what you're hearing. So now, what does it mean by saying Lord? It didn't say Lord God, it said Lord. Lord means ruler. So what is it ruling? Physical or the being part? You're at a disadvantage, Charles, because I've never shared with you, when we speak language, we don't see it. So everything you see around you, you don't see the words you speak, let alone the thoughts you receive. So now when we speak, that's more for the spirit, the being part. The human part, where is it? Hitting a wall, that's just a material, but the word I just used is not there. And most humans live 80, 90, 100 years completely asleep.
Okay.
They might not even understand how money really works when you associate it within a plane that there's different kinds of atmospheres, there's currency, it affects each other. That's why we have calendars, why we have numbers and colors and all that stuff. So when we're talking about something like father, implying the masculine side, the yin side. Now, Jaro, you could throw in mother, but you haven't even broke down for yourself. What does it mean to say father? Anyway, I went on. Sorry, guys.
How? What ideas what did you find interesting so far, Charles?
Oh, I mean, I'm just trying to listen because I don't know, maybe I just came in late. So I just wanted to hear out what is the main core topic that's been discussing. So I guess right now it's like we are finding out the definition of father using in what language. So yeah, because what I heard from Dom is like maybe man created the language as a tool in order for
Mhm.
him to comprehend the abstract things.
Mhm.
So uh, the question would be: is the tool sufficient enough in order for the rational mind to grasp whatever that abstract is or the essence? Mm.
Nicely said, by the way,
Very good.
Charles. Well done. And again, English is a meaningful language. You use the comprehension. The tonality for comprehension would be like a Greek language. Like there's
Ah,
tonality in our language. So since we've
yes.
said it in English, the word father, then we have
Mhm.
it has many meanings. So what are some of the meanings? And then we can share among ourselves.
Yes, yes.
Jaro brought in the word master. If he wants to break
Mhm.
down how he thinks it's a master, I'm willing to hear it. But I'm
Mhm.
always listening from within. But I'll hear you.
Hmm. Well, I think hmm, I think somewhere along the line from last week, hmm, we may have talked about master slave, and so maybe that also produced the idea of father and our father and the Lord's prayer, and then but Dominic brought up today that this father doesn't have to be the creator. It doesn't, in the Lord's prayer, it doesn't say our father who created us and created the universe. It just says our father who art in heaven, thy
Mhm.
kingdom come, thy will be done. So they're saying that we hope that by worshiping this father, that this father's kingdom will come. And so we have to, so it sounds more like it's treating this father as a slave, as a master, as a king, and we're going to submit to this king to be his subjects, so that then the kingdom will come and we'll live happily ever after.
Hey,
That kind
Jaro, I've heard that, and I get the phrase. Excuse me. Did it ever say anything about worshiping? I'm just asking. Our Father that in heaven. Come down here and what about to be on earth? Earth is this dry land. Where does it ever want? This is how we become fundamentalists, and
aha,
we bastardize.
hallowed, hallowed be thy name.
Yes. Okay. So
That
let's break it down. Okay. Hold
suggests
on.
worshiping.
Okay. Does it hollow? Just means
Hallowed,
hollow. A lot of times means don't
hallowed
speak that.
means how wonderful is your name. Let's
Hallowed be
worship.
thy name, Jarl, could imply we don't speak his name.
Oh,
See, this is
oh,
where you're
hallowed.
putting in a lot of things, and then you're going to think that's the truth,
Name is
which is fine.
so holy. His name is so holy. We shouldn't speak it.
Okay, but okay, put that aside. You're just repeating what I just said. Okay, I don't mind having a conversation with a parrot, but the thing is, at this particular time, you said master. I'm only asking you, did it ever say anything about being a master? Let alone to worship. This is how you check yourself, because your ego's talking and something
Oh,
behind you is saying, please stop representing us.
I'm just throwing things out,
Are you sure? Because
and
because I'm
and
I'm asking, where does it say that?
and
Unless I misread it.
uh, thank you for questioning what I throw out. Oh, yes, Don.
Well, I was going to say that for some people, it could mean creator.
It
And
could.
for some people, it could mean master because we use our own experience, our own
Mhm.
preferences. And even though when you're breaking it down, you say, well, nowhere does it say anything about a creator. But what I'm seeing in this wording is that it really has to do with a person's own perception.
Mhm.
And so for me, when I was growing up and I was taught that, I was taught that it was referring to Creator, God. And but just now, when you said Lord, Lord means ruler, and I said, well, then that says the ruler's prayer.
Mhm.
The ruler's prayer. Is it the rulers praying this, or is it the prayer of the slave to the ruler?
See,
So
Don,
now that opened up another
when you hear
question.
the word lords, that's men, men. When you hear Lord God, that's man. When you hear
Mhm.
gods or demigods are actually fallen ones, but that's a different thing. That's creations. So now, when people talk about lords, this is why when people like to read the Bible or whatever, I say, okay, then stay true to it. Adam had to become a lord. He had to become Lord, not a Lord God. He's not a creator. And the thing is, we don't even use those kind of languages, so we wouldn't even know how to create things with words. Whether you have a thought or you speech, something comes out of nothing. Hence, the unknown coming into the known. So now, when we hear the word Lord, this typifies its man-made written scriptures. And last time I remember, men, it doesn't matter even if a woman running the show, it's usually unfair and unbalanced. Now, you're allowed to question it, but you question it from within. Now, your parents can tell you, okay, well, this is how I interpret it. I said, it's the eye of the beholder. It's one's point of view. That's all you ever have in one lifespan. I'm not outside. I'm looking through these eyes. So it's how I feel about when I see things. Now, if I develop my feelings, I know enough to say, okay, Dominic, it's about you, but can you stop this long enough so you can have these side views opposed to this and this? This is why I say parents fail their offsprings on a regular basis because nobody teaches their kids how to breathe. Nobody teaches what do I do, Mom, once I eat my food? Oh, I don't know. I said, so you're not my teacher then. People aren't willing to humble themselves long enough to realize, fuck all about fuck all. But we need to question that within. Challenge, know thyself, be aware of the self, not self-awareness, self-love, and all that crap. That's the ego talking. And when I say ego, the ego's the one that judges. It's the being that does discernment. If a person wants to just learn about the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that's fine. But what about the tree of life, of wisdom and understanding? If those things even exist. But most of us do it on a regular basis. We do have wisdom. Something's telling me not to go down that street. Well, then where'd you get that discernment? So most people, a lot of times, we live in this reaction. Well, I got to go down there anyway, because that's where my job is. But I'm telling you today, making an exception. Go ahead, Jaro.
Thank you, Dominic. I now question you.
Me? Why me? Question what you're hearing.
No, I
2
don't
words.
question you in personally. I question some words that came out of your mouth and that produced some a light bulb, and I say, oh, that's interesting. So I question the words uh, that you said, like the word humble. That and what? Oh, worship. And so I question, what is it to worship? What is it to humble? And and is there a connection between worshiping and humbling?
Yes.
And in the Lord's Prayer, it talks a little bit about being humble, like when it says, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So uh, so when we forgive others, why would we want to do that? Because we're also causing harm to others, and we might not even realize that. So we're saying, oh, I gotta think about forgiving others, because I may be doing stupid things, like on the driving on the road, cutting people off, or driving too slow and people honking. And it's okay, people might not like the way I drive, so maybe I should forgive them the way they drive, because I'm always saying, "Oh, look at that stupid person driving the way it is," or the person's driving too fast or too slow, as if the road is mine.
Jero, if I can intercede for a second, most people, when they say it's an evil world, evil means material. So now most people are caught up in the evil. That prayer is a spiritual prayer because you don't see words. So now, for example, worship, when you use it in a different variation could mean work for. A lot of people work for the material more than they do for the spiritual. They ignore the spiritual. So now when you forgive, here's an example of forgiving. I have an ill intent for, say, I'm just going to use it as an example for Dawn, but I don't fulfill it out in the material. I can ask for forgiveness. When I do it in the material, I can only be forgiven with a physical way of doing things. I will no longer do that. I will change my way materially. But when you actually have thoughts, I want to harm that person, but I don't do it. No different when somebody says, bless you. May you bless me, but don't think that you can bless me. That's a hope the best for you. You know, we don't have that ability. This is why in America and other countries where they say, God bless you. I said, when did we start speaking on behalf of something we don't even know exists or doesn't exist? That's sloppy language that most of us use. And I do it too. So I enjoy being in the game because I realize how would I be able to understand other human beings if there's even possibility of understanding another human being? That's for me to understand me. Honesty usually means you're being honest with the self. But most people aren't honest with themselves. They're over exaggerating things. We specialize in a certain area, but then we lose all the other abilities to understand within ourselves. So how does that work? Who am I supposed to honor? Yourself. Who's your temple? You. So we never leave outside. So then who's with us? Hence, love thy neighbor as thyself. Who's closer than Dawn and me? Is me. Whoever I think I am or not, but I'm allowed to explore that. That's why it's called a fool's journey. It's usually the idiot that thinks he knows things. It's the fool that actually seeks things. But you're allowed to question things too. And in this case, I could question reason, thinking, feeling. It's not about questioning others. I know you weren't questioning me, Jar, or you were questioning basically what was coming out of my mouth. But the question is, do you ever do that when you're by yourself? Well, no. So then you're just reacting at that moment. Hence why we have words like responsibility. If you understand how to have the ability to respond, then you can do the other thing called accountability. But most people are doing what they read in the Bible. They're pointing fingers. Oh, it's Donald Trump. It's the elites. It's my neighbor. Then be the example if you think there's a different way of doing things. That's why I say it's not about right and wrong. It's about right and left directions. If you think you could do something different than somebody else, then do it. Fill your boots. I say that jokingly, but I imply the fact that fill your boots. And I usually tell my buddies, bring a pair of sandals. Why? Because maybe in one lifetime, you'll actually fill up those boots that you actually have to remove the sole of your feet and then learn something. Go ahead, Jaro. I see your hand.
Thank you, Dominic. That was wonderful.
If you think so.
So what have I learned? So yes, Dominic brought up some interesting concepts, some interesting practices. So like most people don't humble themselves. And so could it be that worshiping is humbling? Like uh what does the word worship mean? What to you? What do you think? Is it like bowing down like to some some figure that they build in the center of town, and then the head of the town says, we shall worship this, so I order everyone to bow down to this. So what? That worship.
Muslims gyro, it would be a word called submission. The Asians will
Submit.
do some. The
Huh?
Asians will do something like bow their head. You know, people will say like namaste and all that, honoring, you know, your soul from within. Some people in other like third world developing country, it could imply work for. So you're humbling whoever you are towards whoever is in the other person, not the physical. The physical is perishable, but I get it. It's a vessel. It's like my car. I have to show it some sort of respect. Why? Because then how would I know how to do oil change? Respect just means consider. Most people have forgotten the concept of considering for one another. We go to work for a job. Okay, you might not consider the person that works there, but you at least consider the job. It's nice when you get both. When you work for a company where the boss cares about you and the job. He says, you know something, but I'd rather. But if you can't do both, at least do one or the other. Respect for me, and I'll take care of your company, or respect the company, and I benefit from it. Most people, if not most, all of us, we fail it in one moment or another. Don was talking earlier about working a job. Is it really a job that's, you know, balance? Probably not. If Don was a lawyer, she'd say the same thing. A person is a construction worker. And then we wait till we're near the end and we say words like retired. And I usually use the word retarded, because we've aimlessly, now it'd be different if we're working for our shelters and our needs. But more times now, we're working for a job where we're helping some other clans push around money. Oh, but gold's more important. Well, good luck bringing that to Starbucks. You know, this is how we are. And this is what university and high school pumps out. More stupid human beings. Well, humans, not being part. But how many people would get it on airs when I say that? I said, you don't know, I got a fucking clue how to be humble. Why? Because I'm okay with throwing myself under the bus. I'm my own hypocrite. I know that about myself. You know, it's like when people talk about narcissists and psychopaths and sociopaths. What about the people that are around those people? What kind of morons are they? Because those people are few in number. Now, I know I'm talking like an idiot right now, but you know something? I don't go around selling pleasantries like the Dalai Lama and the Buddha and all that kind of stuff. Because most people aren't going to understand that. Oh, give me more of that. Give me more of that. How does that serve you? Listen to the word. How does that serve you? How does that honor you? How does that humble you? These are just words I'm throwing, and they're all probably, a lot of times I'm bastardizing it because I know there's, a lot of times there's no meanings to those words. This is why English is a very struggle language to use. Anyway, went on again.
Thank you, Dominic. What, I wonder what Charles is thinking about this crazy meeting.
Is it crazy?
He'll probably never come back. Oh well, thanks for coming anyway. How do you like it so far, Charles?
It's good. I mean, it's a good learning. You know, for me, it's more like you accept. It's like I guess it's from the book of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Said when he wakes up every morning, he meets different kinds of people, so he prepares for that. So I guess like in every event, there are unique characteristics. So I need to accept these are the things that are present in every situation, and it's like a fingerprint. You cannot have you know, two fingerprint has same design. So it's like I'll just accept that the rainbow has the different colors. Otherwise, if I just accept like a single monochrome color, then it won't become a rainbow. Yeah, so for me it's fascinating. Yeah, thank you. I'm just here to listen, and of course if I can contribute to something, I would. Yeah, but I enjoy
Oh,
talking.
thank you for contributing. That if we accept what
Mhm.
the way things are, then it will color our life. Something like that.
Yes.
I interpret.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, so no longer about way then, because I know
Don,
I've yapped on. Let's go back
Don
to
wants to
the.
say something.
Okay, go ahead, Don. Sorry.
I was just going to say that Charles made me. That was a very good message because it made me think about a conflict I created for myself with my dog, with Evie, because I discovered that I had a resistance to what is when it came to Evie, and what the resistance was to her being a dog. And I thought, it was even just this past week, I was having an internal inquiry about this silliness of me wanting her, loving her, but gosh, I have a problem with her being a dog. Certain things that she does. And so there was a unification that occurred this week within me where I realized that, okay, you love her, but certain things she does you don't like and it frustrates you, but that's a part of her being a dog. And so, oh my gosh, I was able to have quite a laugh at myself because I was having a resistance, causing suffering for myself, being upset because, oh my gosh, she has dirty paws. Well, she's a dog. She walks on her paws outside. And so she puts up with me wiping her paws off before she comes in. But sometimes I catch this look that's like, her face just looks like, God. And then I realized I caused the suffering because I was refusing to accept this is what it is to have a dog. She goes outside, she's going to have dirty paws. If she allows you and cooperates with you wiping them, that's great. But you don't need to make a problem out of it. You don't need to suffer because of it. Oh, I gave myself a relief this week. So I really enjoyed that message. It was a quick message, a quick note to remember to accept what is. Thank you for that, Charles.
Thank you, Don.
Mhm.
That was
Don, if you
funny.
don't mind me elaborating, a lot of times what we call acceptance can come in a form of allowance or awareness. So I'll give an example. Your dog Evie allows. The part that you're talking about what you thought about her, that was you projecting. We forget that animals, their core essence is what we call nature. Nature actually implies it's wild and untamed. The reason why we struggle with animals is because it's a reminder to us that we've become so domestic that we can't even appreciate what it is to be wild and untamed. When you look at nature outside, there's a reason why we remember. Cats do it more than dogs. Dogs have been so domestified that they've lost a lot of their natural ability to understand what wild is. When you look at nature, you have this remembrance like, I remember how it used to be wild and untamed. This is why we have things called laws, light, air, wind, and space. Those are boundaries around nature, but it does not control nature. So now we do forget, oh, my cat pees inside. Well, I'm the one that wants the cat to be inside going into a litter. I'm the domestic one trying to tell them. This is why we have the concept of slave and master. The one that wants to be the master is the biggest slave. It's like the person that says he's so secure that he's so insecure that he can say he's secure. That's still a child speaking. And when I say child, I'm not talking about, he's spoiled. He's just not developed. Those are the child years when you're supposed to develop your feelings. When people say, oh, I don't like that, I said, that's your child speaking. I agree, that's your child speaking. Go ahead, Jaro. I see that.
Let me elaborate. I like
Please.
that word. Let me elaborate on what Dominic was elaborating on what Don was elaborating
Please share.
on Charles. What Charles said, which
Please share.
was his observation of how interesting this was, and that he was just accepting what was going on, and that was wonderful. And then Don said that now she accepts Evie as being a dog, and and then Dominic says that yes, and oh, now I forgot what Dominic said. So now I cannot elaborate on what Dominic's.
No, you can't, because Jaro, once you're listening from within, you'll see the observer observing. So now,
Oh, now I
animal,
remember.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Dominic said something interesting about master slave, that the master could actually be the slave of the slave. So like Don is the slave of Evie because she has to take care of Evie and wipe uh, her paws when she comes in. So she's become a slave of Evie.
No,
And
when you try to control
then
something, Jaro, when you try to control something, that is when you become that slave and master. It's like being the teacher. When you're in the classroom, and if you think you're the teacher, you have to be the student. Now, everybody else in that classroom are just hearing you. Now, they might get rewarded with, oh, you give me a couple of A's or you pay me 6 figures. That has nothing to do with being the teacher student. That's why when a professor says, Dom, I'm a professor, I said, you better be a student. Why? Because I'm going to observe you. And then they said, well, Dominic, but I went to school. I said, who taught you how to breathe? Well, I don't know. I said, then you're not the teacher. You can have teachings, but you're not the teacher. Because within the realm that we live in, within yourself, when you're ready to be the student, most people never become the student in one lifetime. Once you're the student, there's thousands of teachers that will come when you're ready. It's not because I want to be ready. For most people, they just get initiated. Oh, I'm in a group. Doesn't mean you're a student. So now in this particular case, as Don was saying it, the dog doesn't acknowledge the ideal that's the word dog. It understands energy. We have forgotten about energy. So when we speak, we can use numbers to gauge my tonality. This is why we have 4, 3, 2 for one sound, 440 for another one. But what does the 4 mean? That's why it's not in the sequencing sequence, because that's the gauge for time. Number 9, it's the spiritual medium, the material. That's why when you multiply number 9 with any number except for 0, it adds up back to number 9. See, Tesla was only tapping in on stuff. It's like when you look at the clock, why is there a middle point? Because that's you the whole time. You're the center of the universe. You are. But you don't know what the universe really is. When you're looking outside, are you still there? Yes. When you're in the car, you're still there. When you're in the shower, you're still there. You never leave that. Most people can't comprehend that because they don't realize they have all this ego yapping. You can't quiet your mind long enough to say, so does the dog really hear what I'm saying? No, it's responding. It's hearing tonalities. It's like me and Don. Okay, I'm using you, Don, as an example. I go to the flea market with Don. All of a sudden, we're walking around, and all of a sudden, a whole bunch of people are saying the word Don, but Don doesn't respond. All of a sudden, she hears this one voice that comes from her mother. She'll turn around. More times than not, because there is a memory within everybody. That's why we have liquids in the body. When I say the word, some word, and none of you guys have never learned the word because you went to high school and you learned so many words, but you didn't learn the millions of words. Why are you able to remember that? That's why consciousness, prana, chi exist. We just don't see it. We look at a cell phone. This is small technology. This is technology. This can only have so many memories, but we've never worked to a point where have we worked collectively. Why? Because there's thousands of people that are behind writing a book. There's millions of people that are actually behind creating a car. So I rather trust a guy that's flying a plane or a woman that has thousands of people opposed to a single operator driving a car. But yet people fear. Fear just means ignorant, unaware. That, have you thought about it? Like I can't fear something I've never experienced. So I can't fear death. What I can fear is suffering, pain. But what most people suffer is their comforts being taken away from them, their attachments to it. I can go down the street, get my coffee, me, you, and Don and Charles, we can sit here on a technology that none of us have the ability to create. Not one single. Now, Charles might turn around and say, well, Dominic, I'm a programmer. I said, did you invent the language? Well, no. Did you invent the money? No. I'm guessing when I say that, by the way, Charles, but I can say that about myself. So then who is the creator? Don't know. So now, if you choose to do the full journey, by seeking for that kind of stuff. But if you already set off on your journey looking for answers, stick with 1 + 1 = 2. That's a child's game. And I tell a lot of people, I say, what's 100 minus 98? What's 2 times 1? At least you're becoming a little bit of a grown-up. A mathematician will say, listen, you can't be nothing without numbers. A chess player is nothing but a programmer. Not to take away from their craft, but they didn't create themselves, let alone their opponents. So again, how many people really know how to humble themselves? We talk about the Buddha, but we're in the Buddha form. Who is he? He's dead. Even if he had lived, what does that mean to any of us? Same with Jesus, same with Socrates, same with Hitler. You might as well throw them all in there. This is just me talking arrogantly as it may sound, but I'm not here to sell pleasantries. And that's what most people do. Oh, but he seemed like a nice guy. You never knew who Socrates was. And who gives a shit? What was his teachings? Well, no, that was Plato's crap. And even now, what is the Plato's cave? It's the ideal of the eye of the beholder. You're always within yourself. How do I explain that to Charles that I don't see the words I speak? I can only share out loud. I can't argue with him. Why? Because he can't see through my senses. That's a fool's, no, that's not even a fool. That's an idiot's journey when they talk about, well, I'm going to debate you. You can't see through my senses. Go ahead, Charles. Please, I see your hand.
I'm going to debate you.
Okay.
I'm going to debate you. But I'm going to debate you on debate. Why do we debate? And is there virtue in debating? Or like rhetoric? Rhetoric, we're trying to convince someone to believe this other than that. So what is the purpose of debate? It could be to convince others that of my truth and to let go of your truth. And so there goes religions where the preacher debates to the crowd, and the preacher says, so God says this and that. So if you believe in this and that, you will be saved. So in a way, that is a debate because the preacher is debating on these points and is trying to convince through rhetoric that these are the truths that you should submit to be humble to bow down to and worship.
Could be, Jaro.
There's
But
no
Jaro,
debate.
you know something, Jaro? I'm the kind of person, I throw all the dogmas into the game. Have you ever gone to the moon? Well, no. So the only thing you could do then is believe them telling you a story they went to the moon. Have you ever really proven whether or not democracy, any kind of ism, is actually correct for every individual? No. So all the dogmas are exactly what they are, belief systems. So now in this particular case, the whole ideal of master-slave is another dogma. Now, they're not trying to prove truth. It's actually misleading. Father of all lies. You tell somebody enough times, they're going to believe it's true. Why? Because they caught up in belief. Forget about whether they have knowledge. Then once you have knowledge, that's the child, then you can go wisdom and understanding. Child, son, go get wise counsel. You go towards your feminine side. Just understanding, be true to yourself, be honest to yourself. That's probably a better word than truth, because really, I don't know what truth is. So now, once again, have you ever gone to the moon? Probably no. So how would you know what they're telling you is real or not? Go ahead, Charles.
So I'm going to debate you on whether debate has any virtue, or is it that we should strive to debate on in a way that helps us find the truth for ourselves? Or is there a way to debate that will lead us to a truth?
Take the word D out of it, and then you got bait. What do I look like to you? I'm a fish. You're going to put a little worm on top of it, and then you brought in another word. You have to now define virtue.
Oh,
This is the thing. People use this defense and attack game. That's the ego talking. When they say, "Well," and then they start using big words. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to start talking about philosophy, but I'm going to use a language that none of you guys understand. I'm going to use Sanskrit. That's being inconsiderate to the people that are involved. So, Jaro, if you're going to continue, if you're going to bring in the word virtue, if you want to bring your definition or maybe some sort of general definition of what virtue is.
so
I'm not
I'm
debating
going,
you, Jaro. I'm not debating you at all. I'm questioning what I'm hearing.
I'm
Unless
going,
you think you actually own the words. Go ahead.
I'm going to debate you.
Go
No,
ahead, Jaro.
I'm going to debate with you on whether there is a way to debate and in a way that removes our ego from it, like debating not towards I winning the debate, but whether I can debate and present a truth that is presented in such a way that the audience will say, "Oh, now I know the truth," through logic or something, some reasoning. Is there a debate that uses reasoning that says it's obvious for everyone to see? Oh, he has led me to the truth. Oh, and what
Who's
is
they?
truth?
So those are the people that also think that they're going to be saved. From what?
Hmm,
It's a question.
hmm.
From what? What are you going to be saved from?
Oh, we're going to be saved from non-truth.
Again, Jaro, you're throwing in a word that a lot of people use and they really don't spend time trying to question it for themselves. What is the concept of truth? It's like
Oh,
saying that you
truth,
have the answer to what? That's usually a
oh,
pious position.
truth will be that which liberates, which
Well,
saves.
Jaro, the only thing I've ever seen that's somewhat truth or true is the sun.
The sun.
The moon's not even true. So
Oh,
now I've never met a human being that's actually true. They might be honest. A person that says that he's a crook and he acts like a crook and talks like a crook is not a hypocrite, but that has nothing to do with being true.
hmm.
So now you're throwing words around, which we all do, but we're not actually listening from within before we start talking. Hence the word meditation means to listen. You listen from within. You pray, you inquire. Oh, go ahead, Jaro, please. You're going to use the
I
bait,
am
hopefully.
going to listen to
Maybe,
you.
maybe.
When I listen, I hear that you are questioning what is true, and I will answer that for you. True is that which not only saves and liberates, but leads to flourishing. How's that?
Okay, so Jaro,
You like that?
let's say that what you just shared, Jaro, is what you call truth. Okay, if you've practiced that and you've come to that awareness, it'll be like me, you trying to explain to me, Don, and sorry, Charles, you saw an alien. How would you explain that to us? How many books would you have to write to explain that? Charles, to me, you could be anybody. You could be reenacted as the Queen of England. I would say, listen, my queen's within me. Hemispheres are king and queen. So now I'm hearing a story. Go ahead, Jarrell, please. I know you're
Yes,
entertaining yourself.
I will answer your question.
That now I already know your ego speaking, because anytime somebody says you can answer, that's the ego speaking. Nothing wrong with it.
Yes,
But go ahead,
my ego will answer your question.
please.
And then when my ego answers it, I would have won the debate because my answer will win the debate and I will feel good about my ego,
Yeah,
myself.
you just said feeling, so you tell
About
me exactly where you are. But go ahead.
so, oh, but maybe there's some truth in my answer. So when you present an alien to me and you want me to explain to the alien what is truth,
No,
and I
no.
will
How would you explain it to us?
oh And so I will explain to us what is truth. And I will say, truth is that even though we have different fathers, our fathers are all different,
Mhm.
but in the way we are all of the same father, Adam and Eve. No,
Okay.
that's false. No, we can say that that if we see each other as our father, because in our past life we must have had a father. No, it's better to say that we had a mother, because fathers, they just do the sex act and then leave. But the mother, uh, they they have to uh, keep the uh, the conception in their womb for 9 months, or for other animals, different number of months, and
Okay.
then they release them, and not only that, they protect them for several years, and then they send them to school.
Okay,
But
Jaro. So,
so
Jaro, Jaro, I'm
that
not putting my hands up, Jaro. I'm going to share something with you now, Jaro. This is where you're teachable. You said something about past lives. You already would have a whole bunch of people that don't value the concept of reincarnation. So you've lost them already. Okay.
okay.
So now, what you're trying to do, whether you're aware of it or not, regardless of how amazing your mind works, it's still scattered, but it works for you. When you go around telling other people, I saw an alien, how would you explain it? What most people end up doing is, well, I'm going to write 1,000,000 books. I said, were you born to learn how to read? No, that was conditioned in you. So now your ego is running solely based on your likes and dislikes. No, hear me out, Jaro, now, because Jaro, you're already on a tangent. You've never once listened to this conversation. From within you, what you're doing is you're trying to prove a point. And the only point you're ever going to see is yours. Now, for me, I'm just yapping for the sake of yapping. Jaro, I could care less whether you agree or disagree with me. Why? Because you can't see it through my senses. Okay, go ahead, Jaro. I know you want to share, but I know you're doing this humorously,
Thank
by the way.
you. Thank you, Dominic, for debating.
I'm not
Debating
debating
with
you,
me.
Jaro. Jaro,
Yes.
you're projecting. I'm not interested in
Oh,
debating
okay.
you. Jaro, I'm the
You're
kind
not
of person,
debating.
Jaro, hear me, Jaro.
Thank you
I'm the
for
kind of person
pointing
that would say debating and masturbation is done alone with the self.
out.
Now, if you're trying to prove a point to yourself, do it. But I'm not going to give you validation.
Thank you for indulging
Yeah,
with
that's what I am
me
doing.
on my masturbating debate. So I will be brilliantly, uh, um, mm, I will brilliantly go back to saying my in my past life,
Mhm.
that I am assuming that others will accept that there are past lives,
Okay.
and so I have to defend my position through debate. So,
Yes.
because in order to get to the truth of my point, I would have to convince others of there being past lives.
So,
And
Jaro,
so, hmm,
truth, does it need to be defended or attacked? See, the truth, the whole idea of creating a gun to defend oneself is the same perpetual cycle to create a gun to attack. That's the ego again. I'm not here to denounce the ego. I just telling people when I share with people, put it in its right order. Self-aware, aware of the self are two different positions. The self part is the ego speaking. When I say ego, I'm talking about the program, the I, the it. That's all that is. I don't give a damn whose mouth it came out of. I'm just using a word that most of us been conditioned to use. No different if I use the word matrix. So now when I shared with you,
hmm,
most people aren't, I never said belief, but most people are going to go in that direction. They don't value the concept of reincarnation. So for you to say it, so what, you're going to defend it? You're trying to prove a point. And if that's the case, put a fucking gun to the person's head then. That'll prove a point. But then you're playing this master and slave game. And the guy that's pointing the gun is both.
hmm.
Because if I truly knew who I was, and somebody says, well, Dominic, you were born in a family that because of the color of your skin or your gender, you're a slave. I said, no, I found out who I really am. I couldn't give that away, even if I wanted to. Most people that rule are fucking weak. They just don't know it yet. But let's say they did know. Are they going to try to understand that? Probably not. And that's fine, Jaro. I get you're entertaining it. I'm just fortunate you're not one of these fucking morons with all these different degrees. I said the English language has 5 degrees. You could be a Mason with 33 degrees. I would turn around and say, you're still a child still. Why? Because I'm a child. I don't know how energy works. And let's say they say, well, Dominic, I do. I said, then how would you explain that to me? Do you see about that, Jaro? You wouldn't know how to explain that to another person. You're trying to prove a point. Who are you trying to convince here? Your mother, your father? Are they dead? No, your mother's 100 years old. Go ahead, Jaro.
So I will debate and prove a point.
Go ahead, Jaro.
Point. So I will go by first. I will first prove my point by giving credence to your point, and your
Okay.
point is that there is good, there is spiritual and material, and
That's my view.
there's good and evil. So
Yep.
there's a one-to-one correspondence. So
Yep.
what is good is spiritual, and what is evil is material. So
Those are my views. Yep.
so there's materialism, and it's graduated from very, very material, very gross, and all it goes up is subtler to very, very subtle, very spiritual, very yes, spacious. So and there's everything in between. So and so therefore uh but because it's graduated, there's no separation between them. So when Descartes says, I was it Descartes? He said, I think, therefore I am. So what that means, that when he says I think, so what is going on here? So there's the I and there's the think. There's I is the noun and think is the verb. So the process from going from noun to verb, from material to spiritual, from evil to goodness, is the I, the ego, going to the other side to becoming spiritual. So when he completes that, he becomes, he is, he am. So that implies that this whole universe is is a is a an organization of all the minds going towards becoming. So what is a mind? Mind, may I ask, what is a mind? What is your definition of mind?
Well, Gerald, I've said this to Louise before in our presence, diary of the mouth. I think whoever the thinker is, the I is the ego. Now you can ask the ego, are you the one that taught me how to breathe? No, the program doesn't understand that, because you have to ask the ego. So when I go to sleep, who's there? When I'm awake, who's there? That still inquires who's the one that's speaking. See, know thyself is a very good step, but that's all it is. Observe the self is another step. Observe the observer, and then you realize you're in a material realm, an objective realm. Most people just kind of assume, or they ignore, like they do with their kids or their own bodies, they ignore that the language they speak and what they see are two different things. Now, somebody could say, yeah, but I see a tree. I said, you can use thousands of different language to describe that thing. And I'm using a word to describe it again. Does that prove it or denounce the fact that that's a tree? What do you mean? I said, close your eyes. Where do you see the word? Where do you see colors? That's why we have words like describe. Or we express emotions. Do we actually see angry emotions? No. You might pick up, maybe ever so lightly with one of your senses, somebody's angry. Now you might see patterns, but that doesn't mean you understand that. So this is why, Jaro, when I hear you sharing, you're trying to put it in a longabout way. I'm going to throw all this in one soup, and then you bring in a guy that's not even fucking here. He's dead. And then people say crap like, well, that's what he said. How do you know he said that?
Oh,
The Bible's just a bunch of stories. We got to take it with a grain of salt. Go ahead.
so that proves my point. He's dead. There,
No, but
what
did
does
he ever
it
live?
mean? What does it mean to say he's dead? So who is the he and what is dead? So when one says he is dead or she is dead or it is dead, what is dead and what is the it that is dead? So there is a mind and there is a body. So the body is dead, but is the mind dead? Hmm.
Jaro, you're talking to a person that entertains many different ideals at once. I said with one word that a bunch of words, he's dead. I can also imply he probably never existed. Again, now the only thing I can take is what was written, and it doesn't concern me who wrote it and all that. Then I have to look at it. Think so, therefore I am. I have to go ahead, Jaro.
So now we prove a point that he probably never existed. So what
Maybe.
is he and what is existed and what is probably never existed mean? So you have a he or a she or an it that probably never existed. So what does it mean to probably never exist? So there is a probably that it did exist and probably did not exist. So
Maybe.
which one is it? Well, it's probably that we will never know. And so
You might never know. But again,
so,
Jaro, you're
but
going from the
but
Jaro.
what is it that made us think that he existed? So it was probably a long time ago, thousands of years ago, and then through religion we find out that well he existed because that's our religion. You have to believe that he existed. If you don't believe that, get out of our religion.
Hey, Jaro,
Or
once
we'll cut your
again,
head off.
Jaro, you're talking like an atheist now. Why do you only bash one dogma? Why not state? State are
Okay.
even more pathetic. What about science?
So that proves my point that nothing really exists. It's all in our mind. So whatever we impute, we have evidence of there
Okay.
being something
Jaro,
there.
you asked the question, Jaro, if we can get you frozen just for a bit here. You asked the question, what do you think the mind is? Do you think it's the brain?
Ah,
Or do you think it's the energy that's above the brain? Because the brain is one thing. It's a gooey thing. Mind, that's why we have many words in Latin that means government, mind, man, I. Well, what is it?
scientifically, they would say
They're scientific. Yeah,
the
quickly you
mind
went from religion to
is what
science.
the brain does. Or mind or consciousness is an emergent property of the brain, of
Yes.
neurons. And the more complex, the more mindful it seems to be. This mind thinks, and this mind comes to this meeting, and this mind calls itself Joel, CVO, certified Vinci efficient. Welcome, Joel, CVO, certified Vinci efficient. And you missed a wonderful debate, and I'm winning the debate because it's my ego. And when I feel like I'm winning, I feel good. So I'm going to say that I'm winning so far. Well, probably not. I'm losing pretty badly, but I'll continue. And I will say the debate was on whether, or I forgot what the debate is about anyway. But
Joel, at this point, Jarvis is just talking for the sake of talking. It's like me with a kid and didn't realize I'm actually, it's like a cat or an animal. It's playing and I forget, I'm supposed to play with you. I forgot about it.
Now I
But go ahead,
remember.
Jarvis, you're having fun.
Oh, I remember. So why do we debate? And
Why are you debating?
why
Why are you
am I
debating?
debating? Is it for am I debating to feel good? Because if I win the debate, if I convince others, then they will worship me and I'll become their guru, their teacher? Why do we debate? That's the question.
Hey, Jaro, my buddies, when they do this, I usually tell them, I said, you guys are making shit up and you're doing mind fucks, right? And they look at me
So,
and then they get all upset. I said, you know something? Tell me when you're ready to really play. Because right now, what you're doing is, I know you're doing this for entertainment, Jaro, but after a while, it's like you're beating down a horse. And this is what religion does, and this is what state does. You do it over and over again. You slap people on the wrist and say you can't write with your hands, you can't teach your how to, and all that. That's just reconditioning. That's all it is. Once you find out who you really aren't, then you can actually do that. Until then, you're, like I've told a lot of people, you're a scholar. You read enough books, but then who invented the books?
mm,
And for what purpose? Now,
mm,
that's why when most people debate, they're a bunch of children. And I'm the kind of person I can see quickly through a smirk or a voice. I'm like, okay, you're playing a game, which is fine. I play a game too. I'm always acting.
mm.
Question is, do I give a flying fuck? No, because I've never lived through each individual vessel. So who's responsible for that person that's in that vessel? It's not me. It's not my parents. It's not my wife. It's me. Now, how I act is my choice, but I don't go around telling people I'm here to debate. It's better done alone with the self.
Mm.
Get your act together. If you want to share with other people, I'll gladly hear you, but I'm always listening. Now, that's me yapping because I could be full of crap, but I'm okay with that. But most people that debate can never honestly say to themselves that they're full of fucking crap.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I will be the first debater to say that I'm full of crap.
Okay, then now
So
explain
I'm going
yourself.
to debate Dominic, but my points are full of crap anyway. But I'm
Okay.
going to go ahead and debate because
Okay.
then that will help me realize
Okay.
how crappy I
Okay.
am
So
as
now,
a
Gerald,
debater.
you went from one little baby step to another. What type of crap is it? Is it fertilizing crap? Is it toxic crap? Is it the kind of crap that actually insects have to get into? See, there's use for
It's
crap, but
it's
what
the
type is it?
crap. It's the crap that when you put seeds in the crap, it'll produce beautiful flowers, beautiful
Love it. So
lotus
then it's
flowers.
useful crap. Love it.
Yeah.
But is it
So
useful for humans or for the animal kingdom or the plant kingdom?
oh, this crap that I'm dishing out is the debate that will win all debates. And I am debating on whether debating is virtuous because I realize that when I debate, I'm trying to manipulate others into believing what I believe, or maybe I don't believe it, but I am debating it anyway to see if, as a lawyer, I could win my case.
There you go. So you're selling more goods. You're like a vacuum cleaner. You're a vacuum salesperson. You're trying to convince me to buy something, but I'm not interested in buying. So I don't mind hearing you. You've said it a couple of times, Jarl, so I think I should at least put it up in there. What is the true meaning of virtue? Even though it's just a definition that somebody else has? Because you're
The
using the
true
word.
meaning of virtue is, oh, wait a minute.
I'm just going to put a definition. Doesn't mean that's it.
The true meaning of virtue. Oh, as in there's a false meaning of virtue, and then there's a true meaning of virtue.
Conformity to a standard of right. See, that's a pious position. Anytime you think it's right, the thing is, we don't have rights in the physical world. We have privileges.
Mm.
But anyway, if you think you're right, opposed to right or left.
what is virtue? Mm. Virtue is whatever is good for us, maybe so, or what we think is good for us. But what is good? And isn't what is good for us, isn't that being selfish? Like, oh, this is good for me, then I'm being selfish. But what if by being selfish, that's not good for me? So I should be selfless, and then that'll be good for me. Oh, but then if I am trying to be selfless because that will be good for me, I'm being selfish trying to be selfless. So it's what is it? It's circular. No, it's like you never win. Or so if to be happy, we have to be less selfish. If I know that, then I will intellectually try to be selfless, because I'm saying if I am selfless, then I will gain something. Like Santa Claus. Why did we believe in Santa Claus? So that we would be good. So that, and then the parents would be get Santa Claus to bring us some gifts. So we try to be good for selfish motivations. So is there any way to be good with having no selfish motivations? Oh, Dawn is being good to Evie. Is she being selfish in being good to Evie because it makes her feel good? Why are you so good to Evie, Dawn?
Actually, Evie was trying to own me just now. She was trying to take over my whole being. That's what she does sometimes. So then it's pushing her off of me. I'm good to her because I do love her. And I have a strong sense, a connection to something beyond the word dog in her. And so I enjoy these, even though I'm like, get out of here, Evie. There's a
Oh, so you
struggle.
have a connection.
Yeah, I
And
sense there's a being in her that has nothing to do with the word dog for some reason. That's
how
how it comes to
did you
me.
say 6 years?
No, I got her in July of 22.
Oh, but when you saw her, there was an immediate connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, mm. So, 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 why is that? That was it a visual connection? Was it a spiritual connection?
Energetic. It was
Energetic,
energetic.
energetic.
Absolutely. Yes. Energetic. Something unspoken. And she
Love
it
at
was
first
like
sight.
we know each other kind of thing. Like she ran over to me
Like
like she knew me.
how could that be?
I don't know.
Uh, and was there telepathy going on?
Perhaps I am not well, I would say uh I'm aware of telepathic connections, but I'm not able to explain it.
Hmm? Hmm. what what do you think, Charles?
I was just thinking when Dawn about EV, is it possible that because every day the dog just grows up, is it possible that the EV that you met like today could become a different personality? I mean, 1 year later, and I'm not sure if you say they have the capacity also of to store those memories that of the experiences that she or he gained from you. So when you face EV again for the next month, could it become a different personality type of EV?
So
Could be very
could could it
interesting.
could it be that Evie is not static but dynamic? The mind of Evie is dynamic. So 1 year from now, it will be another Evie, Evie version 2.0
Yes.
or something like that.
And I guess if it's true, then you have to relearn again from the very beginning. So the effort, was it a waste, or since you will be starting from fresh start, like from zero again. So yeah, that's it just popped up from my mind.
I or if you gave Evie away for adoption, and then a year later come back and demand, I want my Evie back, and so you get Evie back after having been absent from Evie for a year. Then but what if Evie doesn't like you anymore for being away a year, because it's a
Well,
different Evie?
well, I can tell you that the Evie that I met in June of last year, I picked her up July 9th and brought her home with me. She was just over a year at that moment. She's a different animal. She's a different personality. So for whatever reason, that family, decided to sell her and let her go. That personality is a different one now. She's grown. And Charles, I was going to say as well that humans are the same. I am a different personality than when I was 25 years old. As a matter of fact, I'm a different personality than 2 years ago. We are always evolving and involving, is what I am learning. And not just us. I think everything on this plane is that way. And which then as well points to your message before about allowance and acceptance of everything as it is. Because if I'm saying, well, this Evie is not the Evie I met, get out of here, uh, then what's the purpose of that? As a matter of fact, I like this Evie better than the Evie I met last year. This Evie is more synchronized with me, my personality. So, wow, good, interesting idea.
Wow. And the more we learn about Dawn, the more synchronized we become and love Dawn more.
I love you guys too. This has been a great day already. I love this back and forth that I'm witnessing. And it's very much opening up my mind, especially when Dom mentioned the word Lord means ruler. Certain things you just don't think about the real meaning or intention, because we don't know what the intention was of the author of that poem or prayer, but it just makes you think, what does that mean? What does it mean to me? I never thought about it before, and now I am. It feels great.
Yeah, Lord. Oh my Lord. Oh my God. Oh my Father. Hmm. Lord. Maybe we have to go and look at the Hebrew definition of Lord and things like that. Maybe we could ask Joel, the Hebrew scholar. Oh, I can't
Yes,
hear him.
I bless you all. I bless you all in the name of the Lord, whatever you take to mean by that. You're all blessed, and Evie is blessed too. And Dominic is blessed if he wants to be, even though I know when he's playing Vinci, he uses his expertise by having a very famous cat give him the moves, but never mind. We still love him.
Hmm. Thank you for blessing us. Hmm. It's wonderful to bless, to be able to bless and receive blessings. And yeah, so wow. What?
Donations are gratefully accepted.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's probably one reason why some people blessed, and then they receive monetary blessings. Mm. But blessed are those who are poor in spirit. What does that mean? Anyway, uh, could the blessing uh, be thought of as something that inspires inspiration? Hmm. So when one is blessed, couldn't we say that one is being inspired to have hope, to go continue and go forth with courage? Oh, like in the movie The Wizard of Oz, one of the characters didn't have a brain, the other one didn't have a heart, the other didn't have courage, and they go to the wizard and they just get diplomas. Maybe they already had those uh what is it, those virtues? Could you call them virtues? They already had them within them, they just had to realize it. Oh, so maybe we're already enlightened, we just have to realize it. We are already Buddhas, we're already Jesuses, we already can pray to our Father, and we can heal each other just by realizing that we can. So go forth and heal my children, my child. I'm just yapping.
You're honest with yourself. At least you know you're yapping. Yapping and chatting for me is the same word, by the way, guys. This is the same word. But now we're talking about fathers, okay? And I know we really didn't elaborate different parts to it. You know, when you have a foundation, you have to have different parts to it. You know, I love it when people say, oh, let's build. Well, your foundation is weak. Why would I even want to build? What happened if there's a grandfather? What happened? Because think about, more times not all humans, but a lot of humans will say, okay, well, I didn't listen to my parents. And then eventually you have to expect your kids to do the same thing that your parents did. They bypassed their own parents to listen to their grandparents.
What is a grandfather?
Another offspring.
Father of a father. Oh, so that's a good question. If the Lord's Prayer starts with our Father, then we should have our grandfather, who is the father of our Father who art in heaven, and we should have a grandfather, and so on. So who is our daddy's daddy? Who?
Well, again, Jaro, I know you're making it humorous. I don't think you're really trying to put some ideals out there so that we can really grow with it, and then people can go into their own little world and then, you know, really ponder these things. I think if it was truly of interest to you, Jaro, I would hear certain keywords coming from you, but I don't. Now, that's not for me to say. But go ahead.
There's something humorous there, but there's truth. I will debate that there is truth in that humor. So, or there is truth in that humor. Yeah. So why is there a grandfather?
I said, could there be a grandfather, Jaro? I said a possibility. I didn't say there is. Why don't we say things like that? Because the thing is.
Okay, could there be a grandfather?
Yes,
okay,
it could be.
So a father is the father of a son, but that father must be a son of another father.
Could be.
Why? Because this father is in existence, and all things come from something else. So this father came from another father. So that means who created the universe? God.
Again, Jaro. I thought, Jaro,
God.
I thought we put it out there, and you didn't really confirm whether or not the word creator was even in that phrase.
Oh,
Like,
because I am equating that a creator is the father of the created.
okay.
So when we say God created the heavens and the earth, then we have to ask who created God. So God must have a father. So we have a grandfather. So we have to ask God.
Okay, Jaro.
Who's your
Let's
dad?
Jaro. Okay, I'm hearing you. Let's bring it back down to the human factor. Okay, because you're going on a tangent for the sake of this, and you could do this on your own. I tell my buddies all the time, I said, I don't need to be here anymore. So in this particular case, from a human factor, when a man that becomes a father, did he create the sperm? No. It already existed. Now he can be the vessel for it. So now
Oh,
this father, Jaro, I
that's a
told you many
great
times before,
point.
are you teachable, Jaro? You're going to yap for the fucking sake of yapping.
No,
Then I'll
I'm
mute
not
myself. I'll mute
yapping.
myself.
I am
Go.
realizing you have won the debate. You have pointed
Jaro,
to
I'm
the
not debating
sperm.
with you. I'm asking you
I did not
politely.
create the
Shut the
sperm.
fuck up. I'm being an idiot now. Okay, go ahead.
No, you proved your point.
No, I didn't prove nothing. You've just proven to yourself you don't know how to fucking be teachable. When I say teachable, shut the fuck up and listen. No, now you're fucking giggling like a fucking moron.
Okay, I will become teachable.
You already know what I got to do now, Jaro. I'm going to go get soap. I'm going to put it in my fucking mouth.
So that proves the point that that mm, who's who created a father cannot be the creator of the son because the father did not create the sperm or the much less the egg to create, to conceive. So there can be no creator because mm, nothing is created from a creator
Well,
because
earlier, Dominic mentioned the word reproduce, and it really made me think about that. We are reproducing something that's already been produced.
oh
So interesting. We are reproducing. Now, of course, what we know is what we've been told. Is it that we have been told that we are reproducing when in reality we are creating? It's a question. But when I heard that reproduce this time from Dom, it really made me think about the reincarnation,
Mhm.
which when I was growing up, the religion that my family was in, reincarnation was, that's devil worship. That's not real. But the recycling of the soul, reproducing. I don't know. Interesting topic.
Well, Don, the English language with the word re means again. So we have rebirth, reincarnation, remember, research. You're doing it again, even rehab, recover. We're doing it again over and over again. It's just
what
a
about
cycle.
really illy
Could be. Yeah.
we're doing illy again and again.
It
No.
could be. If you want to go that way. Again, we're using, a lot of it might not be explained in the English language, Jaro, as much as with the energy. It's like even the word theory. If you break down the word theory, it's another meaning to it. So now, if we're reproducing, then the question would be, if you come to that, what are we reproducing? It's kind of like the mortal opposed to the immortal. If we're immortal beings, then what's the human form? Then it might just be mortal. Now, some people make that a quick assumption that immortal just means you live forever. No, it just means you live longer. This is why you hear stories about people living 500, 600, 700 years. But then again, that implies, what is time? Are we talking about age? Or are we talking about time? These are all inquiries. I play with ideals. I do not play with answers. And if it comes across I'm doing an answer, then I'm being my own limited person. I know I'm already playing from conditions where I have to play with numbers. I got to play with language. Got to play with, and numbers is language, by the way. So Jaro's posing something. And Jaro knows me quite well, I get frustrated because I still have my conditions of having my opinions, opinionated as it sounds. Now, some people would say, oh, Dominic, I'm hearing you. I say, yeah, but I'm saying how it sounds. If you understand sound, you would see consistency. This is why we have reason or rhyme, patterns, because the reason can only go so much. Our reasons have been so conditioned from birth, if not within the womb. But I still go with the ideal that this is me now. I wasn't in the womb. Now, somebody could turn around and say, well, Dominic, I don't believe you. I said, I couldn't prove it one way or the other. Now, somebody else could say, well, I was born in the womb. I said, well, then explain who you are. Not to me, to yourself. So now, when you hear all these different words, reincarnate, again, can we reincarnate? That's a possibility. No different. There's some people that remember that they lived another life. How would you could try to explain it to another person. I can run, but I can't run like Usain Bolt. I have my senses. I can visually see a person like Usain Bolt run. But that doesn't prove that, well, I don't believe in him. I said, no, I'm losing my senses. I know he can run that way. And we put a clock on him. I don't run like him, but I can still honor him for what he does as a person. But is he competing with other people? Because we live in a world that we think we only advance by competing with one another, opposed to competing with oneself. That's where, that's where the debating should occur with the self, especially if the self is trying to be a God complex. This is why I pose things. Who is the Father? I just wrote down on the chat. Now, unless you're reading it from a different person that's changed it, I can only go based on that. I'm not saying that's the truth, but that chat says quite in it. I'm looking, I said, I don't see nothing that says about creation. So then where did we put that in there? This is where we use our imagination. It's like having a conversation with somebody and you know, they just want to prove a point. It's my way or the highway. Well, there's many ways in the highway, and even your way is part of the highway. So are we having a discussion? Or if we're going to play that you're right or wrong, this is why most people just become indifference. Well, I can't argue with the religion. No, you can have discernment about the teachings that you hear. Forget about who it comes from. Because then you can start getting caught up in the other part, the biology part. Well, he's very attractive, so he must be telling me the truth. Forget about how he looks. Because those are perceptions and those are conditionings. What are you hearing? Jesus talks about things. Buddha talks about things. Socrates talks about things. Hitler talks about things. What was said? Take with a grain of salt that it came out of their mouth. When it's written down there, there's no guarantee it was written by them. You know, lead us, whoever us is, not into temptation. What is temptation? Suffering in a form of pain, or to all our comforts, but deliver us from evil. I picked up the energy, and that's my perception. Evil means material, hence evil world, material. That's my perception. I'm not writing a book on it. And I'm surely, because only Jaro chooses to videotape this, I don't go having my own YouTube to what? Convince other people? I'm just sharing you my perception of it. So if I'm a spiritual being and I choose to be in this realm, I could treat it like many. It's a classroom, it's a matrix, it's a prison. I can have many perceptions of it, but it wouldn't be fair of me to try to convince somebody else, well, I really can't convince myself, but if I convince you, then therefore it must be a prison. Those are just my views. That's why I say, Jaro, the only way it can be debatable, if you can truly say you see it through my senses. You can't. So then what you're doing is you're just sharing your views and trying to convince yourself, not me, my views. And this is why I get frustrated. Go ahead, Jaro, please share.
I see through your senses. I I get it. I have an aha moment.
Okay, you got an aha moment.
There was a debate
Mhm.
mm, in the, I don't know, maybe it was in the 10th, 12th, 13th, 14th century in India. It was a debate between a Hindu or a master of the Vedas
Mhm.
and against a Buddhist monk who was the master of the Buddhist scriptures. And and so the debate was to see who who uh, who could who could win the debate. I don't know what the debate was about, but maybe it's to convince the other and their followers to follow me because I have the truth kind of debate. And so it came to, oh, because the the Hindu was a celibate. That means he could not have sex. And he was like a monk, a Hindu monk. And so the question that arose in the debate, aha. So the question was from the Buddhist. So what is sex like? And the Hindu monk could not answer it. And but he said, "Wait, hold on. Let me answer that in a few days. So I'll get back with you." So what did he do? He went and had sex, but without breaking his vows of celibacy. How did he do that? He found a person that had recently died, and he resuscitated that person by transferring his mind into that body, and they woke that body up because now that body had his mind. So he was born in reborn, took rebirth in the body of someone who had just died. And so that person that just died was a husband to a wife, and they were able to the wife said, "Oh, you're back, you're alive again. Oh, you were dead just a day ago. Now you're back alive again. So let's have sex because I'm happy that you're alive again." And so it, she had sex with that body, but she didn't realize that she was having sex with the mind of that Hindu monk. But and then after the Hindu monk using that body had sex with that woman, then he decided to die and then
Jaro, my hands up. Jaro, my
get
hands up.
out of that
Jaro, you're going on. Jaro, my hands up.
body.
Let's play the
Okay.
game of the Hindu and the Buddhist. Both are personas. Okay. They have followers. Because you brought up a story about something that you weren't there, but let's go with the story. Neither was there. But let's play the story. They both decide that I'm going to show my followers that I can endure fire. So they both go into this fire and they both burnt themselves. So it was inconclusive of whose side was better. So what follower is going to go next to actually go in that fire? See, Jaro, you've chosen to be a scholar in this lifespan, but you're not even a scribe. So now in this particular case, it's all personas. Jaro, you went on for a bit there, and you went on to even sex, where I'm giving you a different example, where they both were trying to prove a point. They both got burnt. So now, Jaro, think about what I'm just saying. Would you be the next one to follow? Mm, mm.
I I I think you're saying that if you jump into the fire, then you die, but
Good.
at least you experience what is it to die in the fire.
No,
but you can't
no,
come back.
you made that quick assumption. What happened if they both jump in the fire and it's conclusive, but they burned themselves? I'm not saying they die. It's like jumping off a cliff. There's no guarantee you jump off a cliff, you're going to die. More times than not, you might, but there's no guarantee. You can't give 100%. So now in this particular case, two people representing people that follow them have trying to prove whether or not Hinduism or Buddhism is correct. They both challenge each other to a duel of going into the fire. They both go into the fire. They burn themselves quite viciously, we'll just say. Inconclusive of whose side was right. What follower would go next? Would you go next to represent the Hindus or the Buddhists? Most people wouldn't. They like the pleasantries. Oh, I want somebody else to fight my battles. That's a weak human being at that point. I'm not saying I would do it. And I'm being honest with myself. But then again, I would have to question, why would I join a group? You see, being a Buddhist, being a Hindu, being a Christian, being democracy, those are groups. Now, unless you're going to question it for yourself, and it's not one of these little tangible games that we play, well, my religion is better than another religion. Well, you've never even understood why you stand for your religion. Forget about other people's religion, let alone science or biology or currency. Anyway, go ahead, John.
So, thank you. That's a good point.
I'll give you my points.
I think.
Yeah, exactly. At least you're being honest now, Jaro.
Or I think you might have a point, but
Maybe.
my point is superior because when the
At least you're honest. At least you're honest about it. I think you're being clever about it.
Because when the Hindu monk, after having sex with in the body of someone that is allowed to have sex because they're married, he then allows his new body to die again, and then he gets his mind escapes that body and goes back to the Hindu body that was dead, because that Hindu left his body to go into the dead body and resuscitate it to have sex with the wife of that body. But then when he's done with that, he knows what sex is like. So he gets out of that body by having that body die, and then goes back to his original body. And then he goes back to the debate with the Buddhists and says, now I know what it's like to have sex. Now I can defeat you in debate.
Okay, so now, Jaro,
debate.
You said a word. Who gives who permission to have sex?
Oh.
Some group, or should it be the mutual parties that are involved? See, this is where women usually never get included in all these kind of discussions. That's men yapping. You priests are allowed to have sex, or you're not allowed to reproduce. I said, so who would you be teaching that information down to the next generation if you're actually doing depopulation?
Oh.
Outside of that, then who gives permission then? Then would he have to rape a woman?
So are you saying?
No, ponder it. I'm not saying nothing. I'm asking a question out loud, Joe. Who gives permission?
Are you questioning who gives permission to have sex? If you claim to be a celibate, then you're taking away that permission and you're vowing that you will not have sex. But then that Buddhist monk took another body, so he had sex, but then he came back that he remembers what it was like to have sex, but he didn't have sex because he used somebody else's body. So he keeps his celibacy.
But Jaro, who gives you that permission? If you choose to have your own celibacy, that's up to you. But if you're actually being told by some sort of organization what you can and cannot do, now you're playing slave and master game again.
When you marry, that gives you the permission.
Okay, there you go. Who gives you the permission of marriage? State or religion, or is the offspring the marriage certificate? See, Jaro, I understand a lot of things, and I like to play with things, and I'm just sharing out loud. It works for me. I'm not here to tell other people to live, because I'm only one person. I'm not here to destroy it, let alone create it. And even that, it's the human race I'm more concerned about, not nature. Nature's doing quite well with or without us. They're not the animals are speaking. That's a different topic. So in this particular case, who determines marriage, because when I got married, it was state and religion, Roman Catholic. So now, if I live in another country like Canada, it could be religious, but I have to follow state. Do they really have the authority, or is it all misleading? You live in America, Gyro. Constitution was written quite clearly. We the people, they weren't talking about you and our prosperity, our bloodlines. This is where people bastardize. They assume they're talking about me. No, they're talking about the elites. They're talking about the nobles to bear arms. Why, they think they were talking about guns back then? If you were a slave, you weren't allowed to bear arms. And if you did, there was a reward for that. You'd be struck down. So now, in this particular case, it comes to me, and I'm willing to play with it, because I'm even hearing Joel talk about metaphysical. If we've never experienced death, how can we have that conversation? We can only talk about the physical. The absence of whatever we think we are or aren't, I don't know what it is. Science is talking about there's this little part that we just can't account for weight-wise. I don't know. So this is all possibility, Jaro. It's the guy that wants to debate. He thinks he knows everything. And that's the guy that's called the idiot. Now, if you want to be the fool, the seeker, go for it. Now, I know you're going to say things like, well, thank you, Dominic. You know, you share a couple of points, like as though you grasp it. You got to go inwards. Yes, I get it, Joel. You respectfully disagree, but again, you don't see through my senses. And we're playing with words that don't belong to us. We're just playing with ideals that people give us words like metaphysical. What is the unknown? I'm using another word. I don't know. So I can only say it's a possibility. But unfortunately, most of us think, well, some guy said this. No, I'm asking you. I'm not asking somebody else, but I get it. We got to use a neutral thing, which is language. But if you've done the seeking from within, okay, so what does it mean to be metaphysical, beyond the physical? Well, how do we not know the unknown is the physical, let alone it produces the physical? Because I can't explain when I'm awake, let alone when I'm asleep, who's running the body. I could pose possibilities. Is it my ego? Hi, Joe.
Wow, my hand is powerful. Joel, what do you disagree with?
Well, I think, remember, I'm using the word I. When I think, that doesn't happen in the physical realm, because no one else, and I think Dominic has agreed with this, can know that. So that's taking place in the metaphysical realm. When I create, I move what was happening in my metaphysical realm, either by uttering sounds, by making facial gestures or hand gestures, and I move it into the physical realm that I can share with other people. Our metaphysical realms are not directly communicable unless somebody has some special power. I know that some of you here may be able to transcend the physical and move right into other people's minds, but I don't have that power that I know of. So all we can do is create something and decide to take action in the physical realm. I can speak, I make sounds, and those sound waves, as we theorize, bounce off your eardrums. And the result of my sound waves and your eardrum waves, or whatever they're called, go into your metaphysical realm. And it may provoke you to answer or respond, in which case we interchange in the physical realm. We get some of our ontological beings shared with each other. And that's all I know of from Bowling Green, Ohio, your erstwhile reporter.
Is that where you're at? You're in Bowling Green, Ohio? Wow, that's special.
See, Joel, what you shared, and thank you, Joel, where our senses have certain patterns to it. So there's people that can pick up through their senses. Then there's other people that they can play an instrument and they can see colors, for example. I can't debate them on that. I could note what they're saying. Maybe they can elaborate. Still doesn't mean I'm going to understand it. So now some things are in the unknown and there could be patterns. Some people can read auras. Some people, I could hear the way Jaro giggles, and I might say, okay, well, Jaro's playing, entertaining different kinds of spirits. That's fine, but that's my perception. I couldn't prove it to Jaro anyway. Now, if he knowingly know that he's playing with different kinds of spirits, I'm calling him out. That serves no purpose for me. It's for me. I'm here to serve me, whoever I am or I think I am not. I can deduct everything that I'm not. I'm not the body. I'm not the language that I use. I'm experiencing those things. This is why I say I experience thoughts. They're not mine. And there are things after thoughts, such as speech, such as written work. Some people have the gift, curse, call it whatever you want, where they can say, okay, well, I have the ability to run fast. I have the ability to read energy. I have the ability to comprehend things. That's why I enjoy questioning them. But if a person doesn't have the comprehension, then why would they question things unless they're trying to defend things? So now, in that particular case, how does it serve another human being to debate another human being? This is why we have master and slave relationships. This is why when people talk about ascended masters, what do you need when you have ascended masters? You need descended slaves. You're not even talking about servitude anymore at that point. You have an animal that will serve you. You're going to treat it with kindness and love and all that kind of stuff. Yes, the animal doesn't need to know that you're going to eventually eat it. But at the same time, if you know that if you treat the animal with kindness and all that, the meat might serve purpose or the milk might serve purpose. I want to be ruled by other people that are kind and generous, but at least being honest with me. None of this clever fucking crap that most people do. They think they're hiding from other people. No, there's people that can read what Jaro, Dominic, and everybody else is doing. And this is why I said they're not being honest with the self. Forget about being truthful, being honest with the self. We all know who the self is. It's you, whoever that may be, whether it's delusional or not. Now, I get it. There's people that want to argue. They purposely get into philosophy to argue. Well, that's not philosophizing then. Philosophy is about all the whys. Science is about all the hows. How do things come to be? How do we manipulate energy, whether it's elements or whatever? And then there's the why. Why did they come to be? Why did we come to be? That's a self journey. And that's why when Jaro giggles and all that, I read the energy. I'm like, okay, Jaro, so either A, you're being clever or you're so fucking insecure. You don't realize that for yourself. And then if you do realize that, now you become aware. Now you know, are you going to do discernment? Well, how can I improve it if I value the concept of improvement? Other people are comfortable being a psychopath, sociopath. Most of the economic system is set up for them. And all that means is that they're not developed emotionally. And that's fine. But it's the people that hang out with them and then they start complaining about them. What does that say about them? They're finger pointers. Oh, my wife was a narcissist. My husband was a sociopath. What does that say about you? You're still in your mother's womb, being a little baby. My twin brother came out 4 years ago, but I'm too scared to come out. That's most human beings, including me. I'm okay with the fun now. I could just be projecting, but then again, I'm also full of crap. I'm okay with it. That's why most people want to hear pleasantry. Oh, the Dalai Lama, he's the Buddha, Jesus, because that's what people want. That's like going to a therapist, and you know you have something that's not working, but you go to a therapist. But before you go to the therapist, you go on YouTube, you read a whole bunch of books. Now you know your problem, you know your solution. So you go to the therapist. Are you looking for different possibilities, or are you just looking for validation? Then why are you fucking wasting time, wasting energy, not even time, wasting energy at the therapist, paying them? You already know the answer. You already know. But what about discernment? What about understanding? Are you going to be honest with the self and say, how does it serve me to debate another human being? Because debating and taking a fucking gun, sorry, I'm going to change my word. I apologize. I'm going to have to put some soap in my mouth later. Taking a gun and pointing it to another human being, what are we saying to Dawn that's a mother? I'm pretty sure Dawn, I'm guessing here, Dawn, because I've never been a child bearer and I've never had my own child, but I'm still a child myself. How would I feel if my brother got killed? Now, my question would be, Luch, why did you pick up a gun or a sword or a grenade? But we like to theorize. We like to use ideals, which I'm okay with. You're talking to a guy that does that kind of stuff. Now, there might be people out there that say, well, Dominic, I'm going to take whatever information you share. I'm going to apply it. Fill your boots. I could talk about business. Doesn't mean I have to practice it. I understand health to no end. It doesn't mean I practice it. Does that make me a hypocrite? No, only it makes me a hypocrite if I talk about it and make it sound like as though I'm doing it too. I'm honest when I say, no, I don't practice it. I understand about fasting. I do it every so often, but I don't really genuinely practice it. So, Jaro, when you say about debating, who are you trying to prove a point to? Because it's not me, because I've already told you with me, Jaro, and you know me quite well. When I share it to you out loud, I don't care if you agree or disagree with me. I'm just sharing out loud.
I'm debating on debate.
I don't think I've met Charles. Hello, Charles.
Charles.
Hello.
Charles is in the Philippines, right?
Yes, I'm in
Wow,
Manila.
that's almost like Japan.
Mhm.
Is it the
But it's further south.
same time zone?
No, a difference of 1 hour. So they are ahead of an hour. So right now, here is 10 in the evening. For them, it's 11.
Wow, you guys are so ahead of us. By how many hours? Wow. Maybe
Sure.
Say something in
Now-
Tagalog, Nanette. What should I say? Do you speak Tagalog, Charles?
Yes, that's what we use usually in the daily conversation. But in the academic field or in university or in professional field, we use English.
wow.
Mhm.
Are you in Manila?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it very hot there now or not too bad?
Not yet because summer is not yet around. So I guess summer would be like around April or around May. That's the start. So right now we're still enjoying. Maybe the temperature here is around 25 degrees Celsius. I don't know how to convert that into Fahrenheit.
It's just very nice.
Mhm.
That's where I'd like to go in Florida. I guess about the same in Florida now. Is it, Dawn and Hiro?
It's freaking cold up here.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, it's so earlier you saw I was when I took Evie out, I had to put on my and I was like and of course I spent most of my life in Hawaii, so it doesn't help. I'm doing okay, but it's been getting 40 degrees and sometimes even lower here in Citrus County. I'm in Central Florida.
Oh. Wow. Uh, Joel, where would you rather live? In Tokyo, Japan, or Manila, Philippines?
I guess it would depend on the circumstances that I was living in, my fluency in the language, and what time of year. And also how much I like crowds. If I wanted to have the most amazing subway system in the world, then of course I'd go to Tokyo. But if I wanted to learn Tagalog, then I'd better go to the Philippines.
And to me, the Filipinos and the Japanese are one because I'm from Hawaii. So everybody was one there. It wasn't until I was 18 that I realized that, oh, that's a Japanese dish or that's a Filipino dish. But it was normal to have a plate lunch that had chicken katsu and adobo and rice and even kimchi on one plate.
Mhm.
So, yeah, to me, you're my brother.
Nice to hear that, Don. Okay. Yeah. And I didn't know that adobo was your favorite food. Yeah. Mhm.
Wow. Hmm.
Okay.
I wonder how Hiroshi is doing.
Well, I think I'm going to leave you people now. Nice to meet you, Charles. Nice to see you again, Don. Dominic, it's always a pleasure to discuss philosophy with you.
With you, buddy.
And Hyro, you stay well. We have to work our way further south now.
Who do you think
We're-
won the debate?
We're going to try to go to the Grand Ole Opry. We'll see if we can get tickets for tonight or tomorrow.
Nice. Enjoy, Joel.
Hi, Joel. Enjoy.
Have a good time.
Same with you, buddy.
All right, you too. Oh, nice to meet you. Have fun tonight.
Thank you.
Mm.
Hi, Charles.
Hello, hello.
So do we learn something, Joel? Jaro, about, I guess, father, indulgence, virtue. What else? I think I heard you say attachment.
And debate.
Yeah,
I-
debate too. Throw that in there too. Throw
I
that in there
always
too.
win my debates.
Well, I don't have an attachment to a winner of the debate. So thankfully, I feel like I learned information from all sides. And my perspective is that there's truth in everything. And so I'm not trying to stay in the middle. I'm just saying that's how it was perceived for me. I enjoyed hearing both sides of it and became more enlightened from hearing all of it. So I'm grateful. I'm excited to hear the next time. So very good.
Oh, this was fun. And I'm debating about whether we should have it on Saturday or Sunday. Or maybe we could have them on both. We could have a wake up and think clearly on a Sunday at 9 a.m. Not this Sunday, maybe next Sunday. I could schedule one for a Sunday. That was in Saturdays.
Well, you're the one that's hosting it, Jaro, so you have to do it to whatever conducive for you, whether or not me, Don, or Charles, or other people choose to come. Because I get it, Saturday for some people might not be conducive, and it's always one of those things. Whoever's there, that's the people you're with. You know, you can't make everybody happy, let alone sad. So if you want to do it a Sunday, you know I'll be there, Jaro, because I enjoy having
Wow.
conversations. Just for the sake of
Thanks
having
for
conversations.
debating with me.
Again, I guess in your world I'm debating you. There's only one person I debate with the most, and that's me.
Oh,
Whoever I
thank
think I
you
am.
for debating with yourself.
I'm always doing that. I do it quite well, actually, and I lose most of my positions thinking that I know things. I'm like, oh yeah, really? So, but that's me. I play a game with myself.
And you're winning your debate with yourself
Yeah, maybe.
by
I guess.
realizing that you are full of crap.
That's my interpretation of it, Jaro. I get it. People might take offense to the word, but then again, I take offense when people talk about everything's kumbaya, and it doesn't show that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way I usually say, Jaro, and I know, Charles, you've never heard it, but who would be ballsy enough to defend the human race? When you factor all the different things like poverty, neglect, sure, you can throw in all the pleasantries. Oh, we create music. If we do create anything, we do dancing, but you have to factor all that stuff. What about the unborn children? What about animals that get mistreated? Who would be balls? I mean, I can't even say ballsy because that's too generalized. That's too much of one gender. Who would have enough oof to defend, if you were a lawyer, the human race on that position? I wouldn't be me.
I have a question for Dominic.
Please share.
Don, do you believe that there is a force that is controlling, scripting the actions or inactions that we have here as humans, that's basically programming us?
I don't know about belief. I would lean more towards knowing. We are on a time delay. They've already kind of tapped a little bit scientifically that we are on a time delay. Like, think about when I speak, you have a time delay. You might have a thought, but those are recorded. So is it scripted? I would think so, because we have many words with the word act in it. So it is scripted to a certain point. And I've always felt that there's like a polarity realm where when we build buildings, there's another building in the unknown there. And it probably was preceded first. So we don't create anything. I think what happens, we get the message. This is why some people in the world will say, I had the exact same ideal that I wanted to create years ago. It's put out there in the universe. So is it an energy? Yes. Is it controlling? It could be, Don. I wouldn't know. I would hope, and I'm using the word hope, that it's gentle and kind and it considers everything in play. But then again, we don't show that even in our species. We're not kind more times than not with nature. We're just fortunate that nature is way bigger than humans will ever be. So, but knowing that you've asked that question, what do you think, Don? Because obviously this is kind of like Socrates asking a question with a question. What do you think? And I'll gladly hear you.
I'm open to that possibility.
Okay. Open or receptive? Open is one thing. Open is actually dangerous. When you're open, you're like flooding a gate. You could be receptive. The mind is very peculiar. You have to be very peculiar in how you use words. So people just use open and close, or the word free will. I said, no, the will has many variations to it. So you probably are open to it, but what's your possibilities? I'm not asking for answers here. Possibility, do you think there could be energy that does control things or dictate things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like from everything that I had learned, and I see patterns, and from the different patterns that I have seen in society, so much as I have explored, it seems like what every message is pointing to is this force.
Mm-hmm.
And they're describing it using words, as you've already said, that conflict things. But I believe it's very possible. As a matter of fact, I feel like it's you said the word knowing.
Mm-hmm.
That resonates with me. It's like a knowing that there is a force that is that has made what's happening here on earth happen for a purpose that we don't all realize, and which is why it plays into Charles's allowing acceptance as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because when in that state, I can tell you the last couple of years changes of my life, and here I am today. I am so much more peaceful, so much more happy, as opposed to what I had been programmed from as a child to go get, make, you're the creator, you manifest, do it, this dream, feeding us to believe in something that's created by man that we can necessarily, as they were saying, achieve, but to what end?
Mm-hmm.
And
well, that's the illusion, Don. We think there's an end. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Don.
I was just going to finalize and say that, yeah, I do believe that this is possible. I feel resonant with that concept.
I think, Don, I get the whole thing about people manifest, whether they're using crystals, they're using essential oils. They think that for some reason law of attraction works, which it does. But if you don't even know what you're attracting, who you are in the first place. So the type of silence that most people never get to is, you could be in a crisis situation and still be in silence. But once you've already judged and think, I'm only going to be in silence when things are going happy, then you're not genuinely in silence. and you won't be able to compare it until you actually are in that situation. I'm in a crisis situation and I can still be in peace. Silence. Then you can listen from within and say, oh, so you've learned to be in that zone. Now, what ends up happening for a lot of us, we play this illusion, this game, without understanding all its parts. So once again, this is why we have words like prayer, peace, and meditation. But when we're living externally, it's like I use the word love. Love is just unconditional. But how do we actually be able to do it when we're conditioned? Then you can decipher and say, okay, well then when I'm loving my kids, I said, no, you're not loving your kids. You're showing obligation and duty. It's when your child sees you doing it to a total stranger's kid. It's the observer that sees what love is. And it's not even seeing. It's a knowing. And even that, then you can actually maybe go towards wisdom, discernment. This is why they have many statues throughout the world, doesn't matter what tradition it is, where a woman's holding a baby. They're trying to imply the child is knowledge and the woman is what we call wisdom. But it's not necessarily a woman, it's the feminine side, the yin side, the negative side. These are the polarities that we're in. So, but we have to get into that state of silence and say, okay, so I'm going to be bombarded with, I'm just using Charles as an example, debates, what I learned in university. That's all jargon. That doesn't lead you anywhere. You could be the professor and he'll say, Dominic, I'm going to tell you about free will. I said, what's the sound with each letter within the word free? Sorry, are you speaking? Sorry, go ahead, Charles. I think I thought you say something. My apologies.
No, I'm just listening.
Oh, okay. I saw your voice.
Sorry,
okay.
sorry.
No, you don't apologize, but thank you. So this is where we're getting at. I don't know about you guys, and you guys create the internet? Probably not. I can make an assumption. Probably not. Did you create the car? Probably not. But once you understand polarities, you understand the car needs grounding, positive and negative, and the grounding of the earth, or we don't see all the different combination of receivers that goes to a phone. And then we receive a text message or a phone call. That's this vessel. It does the exact same thing. If not, it's more high tech. But what we're learning from a very small platform by saying, well, we're going to create things, or in this case, it's not even create, we form things that depictuates the unknown into the known. If you ever take a computer apart and you see the board, and then you see how a city's created and it's bored, then you understand energy to a certain point. Like Charles lives in near Malaysia anyway. You have a time zone, but we only see it when the lines are going inwards. What happened when you start going outwards? What is time there then? People never get to that dawn of awareness. And awareness is a start. But when most people get caught up is they go back and forth from BS, belief systems, to knowledge. You can know how numbers work, but you don't have discernment. So what do each numbers do? When people play with zeros and ones, that's like playing with black and white. When I hear a human being calling another human being black, and I'm like, okay, through my observation, I don't see human beings that are black. I see different shades, but I don't see black or white, because if they're black, then how do I explain this? And even that, when you close your eyes, when did you ever see the word black? You don't. So now that is one of those, oh, you have this aha moment, and it's like, wow. So then I don't see language. No, you don't. Now, what language are we talking about? We're talking about the spoken language, because colors is the language, emotion is the language, energy and motion, body language, thoughts. Those are all different languages. Now, thoughts is where we call for the spiritual realm. Then you have the spoken, which is for the physical realm, because we have liquids in our body. That's why we have a body of water around the earth. It's salt. It's memory stored in there. But we're waiting ever so patiently. So a small group of people that call themselves science will eventually try to explain the rest of us? No, what we're going to do is we're going to parrot what we see. Like when people have this argument, and they do have this argument about the earth is either flat or it's a globe. I said, so let me have a simple 101 childlike experiment. I see a whole bunch of stuff here. I don't see it up there. So how can I make the assumption that the two are the same? And then they have an industry. Well, NASA earns a lot of money from all that stuff. And if you tell something big enough, whether it's a truth or a lie, other people will be convinced, but they'll never see the parts. Let's say I did tell the truth. What would you use to break it down for parts? If I told a scientist that you understand the elements and I brought you to a stranded island or an island, I said, I'll come back in 2 weeks. Will you be able to make steel? I can assure you most of them will never know how to make steel. So now that's where we're at, regardless if it was today, Don, or thousands of years before, whether it's Socrates or Plato, it would have been the few. Same with now, it's the few. Now, is it few people that are aware? Maybe. Is it a few people trying to deceive? Yes, my issue has never been either one. It's the masses that choose to be ignorant. And ignorance comes in the form that when you look at everything in this room, where do you see the language you're going to use each description? Where do you see the word? Jar's having a nice snooze. Where do you see hot? No, it's okay, sleep, buddy. If you need to sleep, you had a good debate. You're going to need to replenish you're going to have to get some more milk in you. I think it's the first time I heard Jar actually wanted to debate. I'm like, it's entertaining. You know what I mean? Outside of waving a gun and all that, I'm like, okay. Like I joke, guys, because I know my place. I realize if I was talking to a whole bunch of guys that were biker gangs, I would know my place. Unless I understood it's okay, Dom, to talk like a sailor. You know, we have this world is a teaching lesson. So how does time work? A clock in the watch is not time. The sun and the moon are not times. Those are signs. You know, we've heard in history that the Romans were able to say, listen, we're going to change the time. We're going to remove a couple calendars. But they didn't move the energy. It still exists. Now, the earth probably shifts all the time. Eventually, it'll be colder in another part of the world. It's like when you read. If you read books, I'm getting a sense, Charles, that you actually teach. So when you read a book, depending on the hemispheres, you'll read from left to right, up and down, and vice versa. But that's a conditioned program. Forget about oral speech. That's why the wise people in the old days, they never wrote nothing. They spoke because they understood the sounds affects all the receivers in the body. Not to take away from written work. The only difference is with written work, if it's thousands of people putting a lot of input in editing the book, publishing the book, then you need 1,000 people basically reading the same book to get the same kind of energy. I still value the concept. If something's been inspired to be written, it's through inspiration that you can comprehend that book. Whether or not some people that have the ability, they can put a book underneath their pillow. Because again, like Don was saying, is there something orchestrating all of this? It could be. Don, I could only speculate at that point. Because even if I said I know for sure, then the onus would be on me now. Well, prove it. I would say no. That's an idiot's journey, not a fool's journey. That's why the tarot card, the very first card is a fool. There's always a reason for that. They introduced the death card, and the reason why they introduced it is because okay, not to wish this upon anybody. When our parents move on, if they already have moved on, we don't know what death is still. So the only thing we could do is speculate. Oh, I think they went to heaven. Oh, I think they went to hell. The only thing that we do understand in this form is what we call suffering. And most people only talk about the things that they don't want. I don't want to cut my finger. I don't want to get into a car accident. Well, what about the other part of suffering? Not getting enough of your indulgence and your attachments, such as I can go to Starbucks. I can go to the grocery store. Oh, so I don't have to make my own food anymore. No, I don't have to worry about where the sun and the moon have to be. But then those people bitch and complain about the elites that are producing all their needs. That's the fun part. We don't have a position. We can still bitch and complain if we want to, but the cars that we drive, we don't make the fuels. None of that. We don't create any of that stuff. And if there is people, then we should give them a knee. Say thank you very much. Why? Because you make our cars. You know. Oh yeah, but there's too many cars. I said I didn't make the car just for you. I didn't make the planes. Those are privileges. This is why when government that are reading from a script are told to say things, well, they're taking away our rights. No, taking a train is not a right. It's a privilege. Same with the boat. Same with the plane. Same with your foods, because if you choose not to grow your own foods anymore, now it's a privilege. Yeah, but I have money. I said, that's a privilege too. Why? Because you're giving up a lot of your energy to accumulate a piece of paper. Now somebody said, but gold's of value. I said, based on what? What do you mean? Well, you can base it on a piece of paper that's valueless, or me and Charles, I'm using it as an example. Me and Charles are going to go to Starbucks. He has this gold nugget. We better bring a flamethrower. Why? Because we got to melt it to give him some. So gold, unless you go back to the days of Egyptians, the few knew it was a conduit. That's why when you see certain pictures of pharaohs and there's people around them holding them gold, they understood energy. We just don't learn that anymore. People don't even understand urine therapy. That's energy. If you fast long enough, for some people, the liquids coming from urine is your healing element. Now, people can say, Dominic, no, you're like a little kid that says, I don't like broccoli. Have you ever tried broccoli? For some kids, it's not good for them. Now, you got to factor in blood types and all that other stuff. You know, I'm an AB, so my blood type's different than most people. Oh, Joe's really getting in there. He's got sleep apnea. You might have to give him some magnesium. It was a tough debate, and it's exhausted him. But he did entertain us, guys. There he is. He's moving around. Kyle, one of these days I'm going to come to Florida. He was probably up all night doing a program of some sort, Jaro. Were you doing that all night last night?
Oh, it's 9:30.
No, I'm talking about last night. Were you up late last night again, doing some sort of fixing some sort of computer program?
What did I do last night?
You were debating with the lawnmower.
I slept in the car a little bit. Oh, and I brought my laundry that was in the dryer and I folded it away this morning. Oh, I still got some laundry and I gotta put it in the dryer. Or they're gonna get mad.
Can't hear you. You sound like a computer.
You didn't know Jaro is a computer. You know something, Don? We all could be computers. We all could be. Think about programs, right? We program things. We get programmed.
We
Like
are
the
natural computers.
I think so. Like the language I'm using, it's a program. Like think about the program. The Chinese and I think the Japanese, a lot of them can't understand each other's language, but they can understand their symbols and their written work. So it's all symbols. You know, me and you, Donna, and even all of us here, there's a good chance when we went to school, we only learned maybe thousands of words, but then where do we pick up the millions of words? We really don't know how the concept of what some people call consciousness, prana, chi, I don't know. You know, we could literally be that concept where they say, how would a fish know if it's in water? You know, I could eliminate things and say, okay, well, I'm not this or that, but it doesn't mean whatever's left that's what I am. I call it a mind fuck personally. And I know a lot of people don't want to play that game. And I get it. And I've told Jaro many times, I get frustrated. Why? Because it's sometimes, if I think I can even go back to that part, naivety is a bliss. But how do you, when you see that picture within the painting, how do you try to avoid seeing that picture in the painting when you've already seen it now? No.
I slept
It's probably Jaro's headphones. They're probably losing a little reception when he's going further away. Do his laundry. It's like, here, Donna, you hear them. They talk about there's so many satellites in the sky, thousands. Have you ever seen any of them ever cross the moon? Because the governments openly talk about, we do balloon recovery in the northern part. So have we all been misled? I don't know if it's a lie. I think we could easily be misled because they tell us what we want to believe. But meanwhile, I've looked at the moon many times. Forget about what that is or isn't. You know, even gravity. Gravity is still a theory. I lean more towards the concept of magnetic. You know, you have a polarity above us and a polarity below us. And that would explain, from my experience as an electrician, when you're around strong enough heat, electricity, and you touch it, you have to pull away from it. And it feels like heat, where you're on the beach and then you go up in the sky, jumping out of a plane. Why is it colder up there than down here? If it's supposed to be hot, then why is it? Because I don't think it's what we think it is. But I couldn't prove it. I can only use examples that are on the earth. I'm assuming that it's a little bit like electricity, you know, but try to explain that to somebody else that have a lot invested financially or their degrees involved, you know. I tell people on the
house.
Go ahead, Jar.
House in there. What? The clothes are in here or in the dryer. No. Oh. Here's my clothes.
It's cool to see our lives, each of us see
Oh,
our real lives. We're not just
no, that
heads
one's
on
not
this little
mine.
chat. We're real people, right? So it's kind of cool to see our real lives going on.
Oh, that one's mine. Wow.
Again, Don,
I got
supposedly,
my clothes.
or Jar, old tribal people used to talk about they would teach certain children that they can see supposedly through the eye of a hawk.
Oh, that's mine.
So we don't really know what wireless really is. Like I lean towards, if we've gone wireless in a lot of our technology, why haven't we gone wireless with electricity? Unless it already exists, but we're just not ready as the masses to be introduced to it.
Wow. That,
You know, imagine if teleporting does exist. Would we abuse it? Maybe. You know, I'm still fascinated by the fact that I've done it myself, but other people, they can ask for clouds to disappear and then come back. Where do they go? You know, somebody else might turn around and say, well, I don't believe in that. I said, listen to the words you just said, believe. I can only believe if a guy that I never met existed. That's a belief. Knowing is, now I know, but what does these stand for? What's the teachings? How can I benefit from it? How can I use discernment in front of it? You know, try to talk to a Christian and try to convert them. Try to talk to an atheist and try to convert them. Why? Because they would have to already realize they were already converted before they were even born. You know, animals give us something to remind us we're the human part of us. Animals are about they're feeling creatures. When we're using our human part, that's the feeling part. Then we use our reptilian brain, that's fight or flight. And then there's the intellectual part of us, our being part, where there is beings among us that actually maybe do create wireless devices, but I wouldn't be able to understand them. And me just seeing the device that they make doesn't mean I understand it. How many people here own a car that know how to take their car apart? Let alone the alchemy, not the alchemy of steel, but the alchemy of language you use to describe that thing.
I said, wore my clothes.
Oh, that's it, Jar. We're going to debate on how you're drying your clothes. Don's going to tell you you should be using this fabric. I'm going to say, did you wash it in cold?
Dawn will not.
No, I know. Sorry for throwing you under the bus there, Don. I didn't want to drag Charles into it. Charles might turn around and say, well, here in the Philippines, it's pretty dry out there. We could probably hang it on a clothesline. Maybe.
No.
You know.
Let me tell you, it took me many years to get to where I am now, where I'm actually able to sit still, be at peace, not always have to be doing, and achieving. I guess I'm weird to a lot of people. I love it. I don't mind being a weirdo.
Best way to be, Don. I think I shared
love
last week.
it.
Best position to be at.
Yeah, I love it. I remember trying so hard to fit in, only to realize now at 50, oh my
Mhm.
God, I don't want to fit in with these weirdos. So
Mhm.
I want to be completely disconnected from this nonstop insanity
Mhm.
of trying to achieve something that is unachievable and not
Mhm.
even necessary, not even fulfilling. Once
Mhm.
you get all this money, you see so many people with so much money, they're still unsettled, still unhappy because it's not what it's about in this life. So
Mhm.
I can just say that I do not give a crap about that laundry. Every now and then it will bother me like,
Mhm.
oh, you have to, everything has to be a certain way, which I spent, like I said, many years being that way. Everything was just like exactly where it was, but I was so unsettled, so unhappy, not at peace, because it starts in here. Now
Mhm.
that this is where I am, everything else is falling into place as it does when I'm not trying to push it without effort.
Yeah,
So
you're being honest with yourself, Don. There's people out there, Don, that have, because trillions, well, based on money, but they have lots of buildings, and they might be suited for that, or they might have been conditioned. It's like being a child from a father that's very ambitious, or a mother. For some people, they're suited for it. For other people, once you be honest with yourself, you said, even if I wanted it, lack doesn't mean I need to have it, let alone if I'm capable of doing it. This is where the ego becomes grandiose. I want to be an astronaut. So are you trying to denounce the fact that those astronauts, whether it's true or not, have to learn a certain craft? Not everybody's designed to be a parent. It sounds nice when somebody says, oh, it's the most amazing thing. I said, compared to what? Somebody could turn around and say, I really enjoy my $1 billion yacht. Yeah, but I don't want that. I said, now you just answered your own question. I don't have to want anything. But if I choose to want it, I hope I'm being honest with myself and realize, is it taking so much of my energy to do this? Because like I said, not everybody's designed to do it. Back in the days, the conditions played a role in all of that. Why were people having so many kids? Well, they never had birth control pills. They needed a lot of offsprings to help maintain their farm. Today, we've kind of gone a little bit backwards. With all our comforts, we've given up our necessities. And it's the same thing like when people go to university. I say this jokingly. I said, so let me understand this. You went to university for 6, 7 years to get one degree. Then you're going to practice for another 20. I said, you haven't accomplished much, especially if they're doctors and lawyers. I said, listen, so let me understand this. I understand if there's 1 or 2 doctors and lawyers, but when you have so many doctors and lawyers, is it showing that humanities are taking care of themselves and dealing with their own affairs, or are they showing that we're becoming lazier? It's like architects. I think I was listening the other day, they're in Japan, they have so many different free laws or whatever, so you can build almost anything you want, but then also your house devalues because it crumbles sooner. So when did we make one of our staples a commodity that we trade like it's like candy, which is our housing? But most people never question that. But it'd be different to say, Dominic, I'm not interested. I said, okay, then you're neutral. No, if you're benefiting from it, you're not neutral anymore. There was people killing other people during the war that were Germans. They can blame all they want to their captains, but you're doing the act. So karma's a bitch. This is where people indulge. They want jealousy. I got to be allegiant to a flag. Okay, but do you understand what that flag means? It means you're somebody's bitch. That's fine. Families used to do that too. They have their own family crest, right? It's easy to divide the human race by giving them different cultures and different religions and different this and that. Like a guy like Elon Musk, he might not have a dime to his name, but I do understand history. And they say the Musk family are eugenics. They value the concept of depopulation. Yeah, but they don't go around genocide. Says, no. Eugenics is about giving women birth control pills. It's about giving them a vaccine shot to most people that don't understand what a virus is or isn't. If your body's already been compromised with your immune system and you weren't able to naturally do it, maybe take your chance on some vaccine that basically was tested on healthy people. But what did they end up getting us? We already have many masks. They got the whole world to wear masks. We all did it. Did we do it for our health reasons or for commerce? It's for commerce. Why? It's not bad or good. There's rulers here, guys. It's our responsibility to understand who are the rulers, what are the rules, and am I allowed to talk about it publicly or privately? Privately, I could turn around and say, I don't agree with the Chinese mob. But publicly, if the leader of the mob said, Dominic, you said that openly, I gotta punish you. That's why in the old days, they used to have the wise person wearing a gesture outfit, because the king and queen were the headpieces. And if they were disordering themselves, if they weren't acting accordingly together, the gesture behind closed doors would say you're acting like idiots. And guess what the gesture is in our body? The heart. And guess what the hemispheres are? Your king and queen. And if they're not working together, privately, your heart's going to say you're acting like an idiot. What do you mean? Doesn't matter who's right or wrong. You're not acting together. Now, a person can turn and say, yeah, but I'm very harmful to other people. Are you acting as one? Yes. So who's to tell you otherwise? See, we say statements and you hear people say, live and let live. I said, okay, would the animals have a problem with that? As we're eating them, I'm not me per se, but in an indirect way I am, because if I'm wearing leather goods, what am I really saying? Now somebody could turn around and say, but you're trying to say it's wrong to eat animals. I said, no, have discernment. If your body needs to eat protein from meat, then go out and hunt it. This is where people get into these debates about diets. There are different diets. I said, well, if you're going to a grocery store and the meat's already been freshly packed months ago, how can that be healthy for you? You know, same with fruits, same with vegetables. We'll fold them nice and pretty, Gyro, because I'll debate you on the folds later.
Well, good topic you just brought up there about the different things that we buy into, the different belief systems.
Mhm.
Belief systems are many,
Oh man, you're
and
right.
there's just so many. Many of us don't even know. We're not aware
Mhm.
that we are caught in a belief system, such as the belief in, we should, be vegans or vegetarians, or
Mhm.
we should not. I've come to realize that I'm not on either side.
Mhm.
I'm going with what is telling me what I need.
Also,
And
you're probably doing an intuitive diet. That's an intuitive diet, Dawn.
yeah, so that's how I've been learning over the last couple of years, and I've been changing without effort as to what I need. So at one point, I was not having very much meat, but then recently, meats come back into my diet, but not. It doesn't feel permanent. It feels like this is what you need right now. And what I'm learning is that there is an awareness I can have of my source of my food. So my sourcing has actually changed. More and more, I'm becoming detached from the system providing for me. And I realize it's a slow process because I want to be in control of it. The more that I give away my control because of comfort, then I lose my awareness of my sourcing of my food. So it's just been a magnificent experience of this change. And so more of an intuitive, like you're saying, dieting, but even I try not to put a name on it. I am not this or that. I'm just Dawn. And I'm being as well as I can. And I love picking up different ideas from other people. And this has been very fruitful.
That's
No
all they
pun
are, Dawn.
intended.
Yeah, no, well, it could be fruitful too, but that's what they all are. That's why we do have to give labels to it, because people want to gravitate to something. Oh, that's what it is, HD, or I'm a diabetic. Well, how would I know what it is then? So for some people, they lead with their reptilian brain. So their eating style will be catered to that. Then there's other people, they base their food on their feelings. When I tell my buddies, I said, okay, so you're going to a store or you're going to a restaurant based on your feelings, but you're not really eating healthy. And then there's the being part where rarely do, Don. My diet is pathetic, but I'm honest with myself, but I do understand it. So I don't sleep correctly for my body. I don't eat correctly. I'm okay with that, meaning that I'm okay with me talking about it openly. Doesn't mean I'm happy with my practice. And this is where people say, well, I got to make sure my life is perfect before I start preaching. I said, good luck with that. Because even if you are what you say you are, complete, perfect, then how would we understand you? So this is where our elders, not our elderlies, our elders can give us wisdom. I put my hand on the stove, so I can teach you now some of the consequences or rewards. You know, somebody says to me, Dominic, I put my hands on my stove, I burned myself, I'll never do that again. I said, are you sure? What do you mean? I said, okay, so you're not going to put your hands on the stove anymore, but do you understand about protecting the hand? What do you mean? Well, you told me last week you've had frostbite, and you told me the other week you forgot to put tanning lotion on, and you went out in the sun, you burnt your hand. So did you really learn the other aspects? You know, this is why in the old days, people that used to philosophize, they were old men that had nothing else better to do. Why? Because the one species, the gender, which is women, they're the ones that are always working. So us men have time to, oh, I'm going to have fleeting thoughts. I know that about myself, Don. Where a lot of, you know, when I hear my buddies say, oh, yeah, but women, they say they're single mothers. They all are. What do you mean? I said, they're the ones that's bearing the child. Now, it'd be nice if they had like midwives or their ancestors or mothers and grandmothers living with them so they can work with them. But more times now, most men, we're doing what we do. Oh, I'm going to become a professor. Doing the fuck? Did you build the building? Well, no. I said, so what did you really learn in one lifespan? Then what they'll show me is all their accolades. See all the rewards I got? I said, did you at least make the picture frame? Or look at all the money I got. I said, you haven't accomplished nothing yet. And that's how it goes. Unfortunately, we don't humble ourselves enough to realize, and you don't have to do that around other people. You do that in your own private little world and say, fuck, am I full of crap? You could be, Dominic. Are you willing to prepare to hear some of the parts? You know, it's like some of my buddies, Don, used to say to me, Dom, I see the big picture. As I explained some of the parts and said, well, I don't see that. I said, well, then how can you say, oh, because it's easy to say the word. Sounds nice. You know, law of attraction. When this was a while back, and it was interesting because I just said it out loud just to see if the person caught themselves. So you're telling me you got a check from the government by mistake, and you think that's law of attraction. Okay. What happened if you got a check from the government saying that you have to give them some money back and it was a mistake? Would you have said something? Well, yeah. Are you going to tell the government you got money that you weren't supposed to get? Well, no. I said, then the law of attraction is you're a clever soul. And most of us are. Most of us never go from being smart to wise. We go from being smart to clever. Oh, look at me. I'm a doctor. I'm like, okay, doctor just means teacher. I'm a physician. That just means healer for yourself. Back in the days, there were shamans or gurus. Why? Because in previous life, if you value that kind of stuff, they must have done something. I struggle with the concept of love because I struggle because I realize I don't see humanity as a caring species. Occasionally you do, but more times than not, we hear about wars. We hear about India. India still has a class system, even though we have class systems in other parts of the world. I'm the educated class. I'm the working class. Those are class systems. Could it have been a design by another species? Probably. But we should still take accountability for what we do. So back to your initial inquiry, Don, or one of them was, is there a source or whatever that orchestrates this or controls it? I would lean towards yes, because I don't value the whole concept of a big bang. Well, then the car just showed up. No, there was different things that elevated that eventually we had a car. Same with the computer, same with us as a species. Were we manipulated? I would say yes, because we do that with our food. Well, maybe not us guys, but people do. Maybe Charles does. Maybe he's in that industry where he does have the opportunity to manipulate food. Gyro manipulates programs.
I manipulate numbers.
Yeah, there you go. You manipulate, but you didn't create the numbers.
Right.
Let alone did you create the people that you service.
Correct.
So then basically, we're not creators then, are we?
No, I'm reproducer.
Bingo. Or
That's where we started.
or we play this thing called an illusion of play.
Yes.
We're just in the play. I'm not the director. I'm not the producer, unless I'm the director, producer from within.
We are all the script writers.
Oh, it could be,
We're
Jarl. I'm with
writing
you.
our own script. We are writing our own parts into the play.
Could be. I'm with you on that, Jarl.
We're
I'm not going to debate
creating
you on
our
it.
own characters.
Yeah. Because, they've done studies where certain people that have a certain, we'll say, intellect, that the husband actually communicated with the womb, within the child when it was in the womb. And most of those kids became very intellectual. So it tells us a lot about the energy that we pick up when we're in the womb. No different, Don, you might pick it up if you're very intuitive, where you might already pick up before you get a phone call that one of your kids are probably in harm's way or did something successful. We have those moments.
I do seem to have some kind of extrasensory ability.
Mhm.
I have fear wrapped around it, so it's not unleashed yet, but
Mhm.
I'm aware of it,
Mhm.
and the fear is starting to melt away. But yes, I do get that. I do. I could be thinking about someone. I haven't seen this person, and that person will just show up.
Mhm.
Or something else synchronistic happened this week involving someone. It happens so regularly to me now that I'm no longer marveling at it.
Mhm. Well, sometimes marveling is one thing, or you start going inwards and inquire. No different. I don't know if Charles has done that or men have done it, where you're all of a sudden, you're just as you receive the phone call, you were thinking of a buddy. We don't see how wireless really works. I'm using a term that we use. We really don't know. And if you did, let's say you did know, this is where you go knowledge. Are you going to go towards having discernment? Are you going to go towards wisdom and understanding and say, okay, so am I going to be honest with myself that I really want to understand discernment? Because what we mostly do once we know things, we judge it, good or bad, disagreeing, agreeing. Those are just small little parts. That's like saying zeros and ones. So are we going to avoid all the other numbers? Black and white. Are we going to avoid the fact that black encompasses all colors and white's absence of colors? So therefore, are we going to still acknowledge all the different colors? This is why when I tell people, it's noteworthy. In chakras, there's different colors and different notes. Which one is blocked for you? My throat's not blocked. My heart could be blocked, hence why when I mix them together, I have this, this cankerous voice. But more times than not, when I'm with my buddies, I'm the comedian. I'm just joking. I start bringing out the Pinocchio voice. Really? Is that how we're going to play it today? Really? I'm a real boy. No, I'm a real girl. Oh, I'm an animal. Those are the voice. That's how I present myself. Not because I'm insecure. That's how I present myself, because I know a lot of people want it presented in a certain way where thinking, he's the fool. I said, yeah, the wise person usually has to play the fool for myself, not for others. I'll play the fool for them. It's like when I tell my buddies all the time, I said, I hope I'm entertaining you, and I hope you give me the same energy back, whether you're entertaining me or amusing me. Wouldn't be fair that we're not exchanging the same energy. Well, Dominic, I'm trying to be serious. Serious and silliness is the same energy. I'm trying to be sincere. When I tell some people, and I say this openly, Dom and Charles, I don't give a damn about you. Now, they might think, well, I'm offending them. I said, no. If you understand you've never been outside of that vessel, who's the person that's responsible for you? You. Not your mother, not your father, unless you're one of those rare beings that can actually do astral traveling. But I'm not that person, and I've rarely met any of them. And if I did, I could ask a whole bunch of questions. Doesn't mean I'm going to understand it. So where do you go when you do astral traveling? And then I could do gyro. I'm going to debate you because I've never done it, but I don't think what you're saying is the truth. That's a fool. That's an error. That's not even a fool's error. That's an idiot now, because I don't know how that is. I still go under the premise that we did or didn't go to the moon. But if I follow the money, I can see that part. What purpose does it serve humanity to go to the moon if we're still living in poverty, most people here? So I don't care if it's Elon Musk shooting up a plane up there. That doesn't do nothing for me, Don and Charles, unless Charles says, Dominic, I work for NASA. Then you get money from it. Back in the old days, I don't know if you guys understood this, but back in the old days, a woman that's 15 years old would be married to an older man that's 50 years old because the father says we had a bad year and I got to sell some of my children to get some of those goats and chickens. They would put it in the laws that the woman, the young girl that probably is not in love with this guy, says, when your husband dies, you got to die. So what do you think that young girl's going to do for that guy? He's going to take good care of him, isn't he? Then they changed the law and then said, well, we no longer practice that. But you know what they practice now is, because the firstborn is supposed to take care of everybody. You know how many Indian women are in India thrown to the streets? We're talking the millions. But most people don't want to see that. No, most people don't even want to see the guys that have to do the pushing on a subway in Japan. We live in a very ignorant world where people will complain, say, oh, the Americans don't understand what's going on in Canada. Most Americans don't even know what's going on in their own different states. You know, Don, you know that because you're aware, you go inwards, not because you have to read any books. You just know. But when you do know, do you want to have discernment? Well, Don, that doesn't do nothing for me. I said, well, you just openly admit that you're a self-absorbed human being, which is fine. You're in good company. There's a whole bunch of people. You know, or another one. We don't agree with abortions. We think that's wrong to kill a baby, but you'll kill somebody that believes in that. Oh, that's a fun one. You know, you got to shake your head sometimes and say, okay, am I the only one not taking the medicine in the crazy house? I'm joking about it now, guys, because, you know, I'm my own hypocrite. I realize I do things that if I truly didn't, I'll even use the word believe in consuming anything, I would stop eating. You know, I've tried to do that. Stop eating and stop. I wouldn't have this laptop in front of me.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and get going. I've enjoyed, this was my second visit with you all, and it was good, just like the first time. So I can't wait for next week. I'll sign up for next week, Saturday.
Thanks, Don. You have a great demeanor, by the way, Don. You have a great demeanor.
I need to go too. You know, like it's 11 in the evening right now here, and I'm looking forward to another meetup.
And I need to go about a half an hour ago.
Go work out. You were going to go work out, buddy.
I was going to go work out.
Okay.
But I guess
see you later. See you later, Evie.
Bye.
Bye. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank
Come
you
back
for
and see
the
us
nice topic.
whenever.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Ciao, ciao.
See you next time, Don.
Okay,
Ciao, Jaro.
We'll talk about.
We'll talk about debating. We'll talk about debating.
We'll debate whether we should talk about debate.
Ciao, buddy.
Thank you, Dominic. That was
Bye-bye.
wonderful.